Hello again, friends! And you are our friends. The gardeners are buzzing like flies in my head, but we are back with another edition of Jim Cornette's Drive Thru. A look at wrestling, old and new, fun talk with me, your host, the great Brian Last, and this man, the leader of the cult of Cornette, Mr. Jim Cornette.
Oh, the gardeners. Oh, the pain, the pain. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to tell you that I apologize if I'm off my game today. But you see, the great Brian Last over there has me so perplexed, I don't know whether to wind my ass or scratch my watch. He's hearing gardeners over in his neighborhood. He's asking me, what noise are you making? Whenever I move my notepad, he said, you're swallowing too close to the mic. I'm leaning so far back away from the microphone, I can't see my computer screen or my notes on my desk. And the thunderous sounds in his head have gotten me so bumfuzzled and perplexed and gobsmacked that I don't know what to do. I'm afraid to swallow. I'm afraid to breathe. Did you just hear my back crack?
You're allowed to breathe.
Did my back just crack too loud for you?
No, but your liver quivered a bit too loud.
Well, at least you didn't hear my spleen turn green.
Ladies and gentlemen, right now, take a break in the show and go listen to any other podcast. Anything at all. And then you can come back and say thank you.
Well, I know everything else sounds like Neil Armstrong long distance calling from the moon. I understand that, but goddamn, we've got to have normal fucking noises going on. The other day you were cussing my air conditioner. Well, normal fucking noises around here, like the air conditioning running in the summertime. It's bad enough I had to turn my heat off in the wintertime for you. Anyway, we got a jam-packed episode here. I'm going to put my pad down, and we got a jam-packed episode of the program today, do we not? We're going to have fun till Daddy takes the T-Bird away. And by the way, the T-Bird is the only thing that's not on sale right now at JimCornette.com. Let me just get that out for everybody. The holiday sale has begun. The final Jim Cornette action figure variant is on sale now. You can get all the details, pictures, everything at JimCornette.com. And don't forget the thank you, fuck you, bye t-shirts are back on sale. After the last couple of years, we've had a moratorium just because we had so much shit. But now we've got less shit, so we got more shit. And you can get that just in time for the election. So we can say goodbye to the Orange Menace once and for all. He won't be running anymore except if he escapes bondage in the courtroom at the sentencing. But nevertheless, and also, if you buy a Jim Cornette action figure, the final variant, or I'm sorry, I'll say this the other way around. If you buy any of the Midnight Express or Heavenly Bodies tag team sets, you will get the Jim Cornette action figure at half price. How much more can we give to people for Christmas, Brian?
I don't know. I will say we have recently, I don't know what's caused it, received a bunch of feedback from people begging you to bring back the burger towel.
You know, the problem with the burger towel was they discontinued the original type of towel that we were getting, and we got another type of towel, and it wouldn't hold the ink as well. And for people who were just buying it as a souvenir, that was fine. It was very lovely and attractive. But for people who were actually buying it as a functional burger towel, I didn't want to give them something that was going to self-destruct very quickly. We might revisit that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you label it, it's a self-destruct version of the burger towel, people won't feel like they're being misled.
Well, I don't know if we should call it that, because then they'll think that if they put it on their lap once, it'll fucking burn up into flames like, Peter Graves' fucking cassette tape.
So display version of burger towel and workable version of burger towel.
For display only. That might be something.
That's right. Not a towel to be used as a towel, 18 plus. Not a towel, a collectible.
What do you mean 18 plus?
Well, that's what all the toys say now. They don't have little kids playing with these things. It says 18 plus, not a toy, a collectible.
But it's a toy.
My grandfather would have called it a doll.
Well, that's what we called it when Vince first told us about him in 1986. As a matter of fact, I think that had he coined the term action figure, or did he coin the term action?
No.
Who coined the term action figure?
I would have to go back and check, but in the early 80s, before Vince hit the market, that's when He-Man, Star Wars was the late 70s, Star Wars, He-Man, G.I. Joe hit in 82, 83. So all of a sudden you had, and this is everything missing today from things that kids can get, you had this entire section of action figures for boys, and some girls, I guess. But it was perfect for kids growing up in the 80s. However, when I was playing with him, my grandfather would say, you know, Brian's with his dolls. They're not dolls. And I would tell him they're not dolls, but he insisted.
And Brian's with his dolls, and it took him 2 hours to blow them up.
Yeah, if you could see how many dolls I had now.
I think Vince was still saying dolls back then. I don't know. It's been 40 years. I'm getting older now. Shorter of breath and one day closer to death. Every year is getting longer, never seem to find the time. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, this is happy talk.
Yeah.
Before we get going, because we have a lot of wrestling to discuss, the first episode of NXT on national TV, Dynamite, the AEW rights renewal, a bunch of things, maybe some questions. It's a lot of stuff today. I wanted to ask you a question I've had since we watched Mr. McMahon. So in the documentary, Vince McMahon says something that we've presumed, he said it to Brian Solomon 20-something years ago, that Dusty Rhodes was the first pick, the first choice to be the face of WWF on the national stage.
Yes.
We don't know exactly when in 1983 that happened. I mean, Dusty did work the Garden in 83, but we don't know if that's when it happened. Towards the end of 83 is when Vince approached Harley Race, tried to get him as NWA champion to no-show Starrcade to drop the belt to whoever the WWF champion would have been at that moment. Didn't work out. But Dusty turned him down. Vince said, and you have to think that he believes it because he said it like this, Dusty turned him down because he didn't believe in it. He didn't believe in Vince, he didn't believe in the vision, he didn't believe in going national, going against the NWA, whatever it was, the way Vince says it and believes it is Dusty didn't believe in it.
Yeah.
So much has been made over the years about the polka dots and how it was a shot at Dusty because he was the booker for Jim Crockett Promotions, the only national company to go head-to-head with Vince to the very end, the prime competitor, whatever it may be. Looking back now, everything from Ted DiBiase's servant being Virgil, Dusty Rhodes' real name, obviously, to even Akeem. They made the one-man gang the African Dream, not the American Dream, the African Dream. Even things like in NWA, there were the superpowers. In WWF, there were the mega powers. But of course, the polka dots. Looking back now and knowing what we know, do you think the polka dots were a rib on Dusty because of his role in Crockett Promotions? Or was it because he had the opportunity, Vince gave him an opportunity, and he said, I don't believe in it?
Oh, and Dusty's words were not under any circumstances to Vince, I don't believe in it.
No, that's the way Vince heard it. That's the way Vince sees it.
That's Vince's impression.
Right.
And see, a lot of these things can be, and you've raised a very good point. And it probably, because it was so much, he didn't ever take that much time to do that many different little fucking ribbish things to anybody else that came from the other company, right? But Dusty. But at the same time, he still later on gave him a job in NXT or FCW, what became NXT, training guys. And, he had respect for him. I think, personally, because you've seen the examples of a lot of these guys' memories of that time that did this stuff for 40 years and never got away from it. And they remember things happening, but the chronology or the timeline or whatever is sometimes skewed. And I'm thinking that Vince McMahon Jr. when he had the plans and when he was first starting to formulate, it's not like he bought the company from his dad in 82 and then had the idea, well, here's what I'm going to do with it, right? Can we agree on that? He had these ideas of what he wanted to do first.
He was sitting in Cape Cod promoting concerts, thinking about what he wanted to do to wrestling.
And so when he saw Dusty, and remember, he also, it said, unlike his father, he would have never taken the belt. Well, not never, but he wouldn't have taken the belt off superstar Billy Graham when his father did.
He said that well after the fact, of course, yes.
Well, but, he wouldn't have, because the first thing he did practically was fucking find a way to get rid of Bob Backlund. So, but at the same time, Billy, by that point, age and things and mental were catching up, right? So what I'm saying is, I bet you, and then you can respond with whatever you're going to say, but let me at least make some of this make sense. I'm thinking Vince had the idea for Dusty 80, sometime earlier on when he saw the flamboyance in the Garden, when they did the matches with Billy Graham, when Dusty was working up and down, going back and forth from Florida because of the father's relationship with Eddie Graham. But then I think he probably at some point, maybe going into 83, had made some kind of pitch to Dusty and not told him everything he was going to do, because then Dusty would have, warned some people before, he would have. But I think he probably wanted to make Dusty a big offer to come in and was thinking that it would evolve into that. But at the same time, Dusty was trying, he couldn't be the booker for Vince, because Vince was, Vince had bookers in those days, but Vince was still calling shots. So I think Dusty, having worked so much in Georgia, so much in Florida for Eddie Graham, getting an opportunity, seeing something going on in the Carolinas, I think he saw that he could be the movie producer, baby, down there where he'd always be underneath somebody else's thumb with Vince. Does that sound fair?
It does, and if you go back and watch, it does and it doesn't. If you go back and watch any of the 77, 78 Billy Graham, Dusty Rhodes matches at the Garden, everyone always talks about how smitten Vince was internally with the look of Billy Graham, but he also was for Dusty. Look at the glee on Vince's face.
Yeah.
When Dusty's cutting those promos in front of the Garden crowd with him.
Because he wasn't in love with Dusty's look, but his personality was so big, he was in love with the personality. That he wanted the entertainer. That's what Vince wanted.
See, the question comes down to 83. Vince buys the company in June of 82, takes over completely by June of 83. I'm looking at my book right here, Wrestling in the Garden, by Scott Teal and J. Michael Kenyon. We talked about it a long time ago on the show. Trying to see when Dusty was in the Garden. Dusty was there, because I know he was there in 83.
Well, while you're looking for that, I'll make the point that
May 23rd, 83, Dusty Rhodes beat Samoan number 3,
okay.
9 minutes and 10 seconds. Let me see if it's
see, remember at the time, Dusty was already developed. He was a star. Hulk was developing. He had been a heel for Vince Sr., obviously, but at that point, remember, Hulk's promos were not what they would become a couple years later. And when he started really developing in Japan and the AWA, that's when he started getting on I'm sure, on Vince's radar as somebody to take seriously. And then it could be that, then Vince had a choice. Do I want the entertainer and try to make him get in shape, or do I want the fucking giant muscle guy and try to make him more entertaining?
You see, the thing that's interesting, too, he's there in May of 83. June of 83 is when Vince has full control. And you have to think at that point, Vince is already thinking, how do I get the belt off Backlund? I can't put it on Snuka. There's no way.
Yeah.
So,
Dusty could have been there because if Vince didn't take full control, Vince Sr. was still working with Eddie Graham.
Right. Eddie Graham was the last outside promoter, outside of Japan, I should say, but outside American promoter to book someone on a Garden show. He got J.J. Dillon on a show in the spring of 84 against Tito Santana, that's the last non-WWF wrestler, other than Japanese wrestlers, to appear on a Garden show in forever.
Yep. And you have to think if I'm sorry, but just if Eddie Graham wouldn't live another full year. If he had, there would have been something going on early on with Florida and the WWF.
But again, Eddie Graham and Dusty Rhodes, we know the relationship wasn't as strong in 83 and 84 as it had been 10 years earlier or 9 years earlier, whatever it may be. But if Dusty, it always appeared to me in 83 he was looking at his options. Of course, he booked Starrcade. It's not even on the show. He booked Starrcade for Jim Crockett, building a relationship with Jim Crockett. He's booking Florida for Eddie Graham. Whatever was happening in Florida, he was there to see it. He shows up in Mid-South in 83 at the end, saying that Mid-South Wrestling is going to be booking him. And then he's not really there ever again. But obviously him and Bill Watts had a long relationship. Georgia's falling apart at that point under Ole Anderson without Jim Barnett. It's interesting that Vince would offer this to Dusty. If he offered it that early and Dusty said no, because also when was it that Vince sent Steve Taylor, the photographer, to an AWA show to contact Hogan? That was right after this.
Yeah, and backing up to Dusty in Mid-South, at that point, Dusty wasn't, I don't think, ever going to go to Mid-South as a roster regular and make Homa. But for Houston, for the Superdome, I'm sure he had in mind Oklahoma City and Tulsa. I don't remember if he ever made those towns. But even Eddie Graham, a lot of times, it would tell like Kevin Sullivan, I got to get Dusty out every once in a while so I can get somebody else over. Right? So he'd book him to New York because it made Dusty a bigger star, but it also, for a few days, somebody else could be on top down there, right? And Paul Bosch would love to have Dusty in Houston. And he did make Superdome shows going back to the early Superdome shows because he was a big star.
Him and Andre won a tag tournament at the Superdome.
I think what Dusty was trying to do was set himself up where he was the booker and the star in a certain territory, but was of the traveling, Andre the Giant, or in the day, Ernie Ladd, or top star category where he could go and make the biggest towns in the other territories where if he was just booking and working in Florida on top, but making the Superdomes and making big shows in the Carolinas or Madison Square Garden or whatever, you're talking about in those days being able to make better than $250,000 a year. And that's today almost $1 million. So that's what he was at the very least trying to do. But booking the biggest company was his goal, which is why he went to the Carolinas. And then that was, at first, he would still make, like in 84, he was still coming to Mid-South. That's when we worked with him in the Dome. He was still making some other shots in major territories not affiliated with Vince, but he was so busy in the Carolinas that he had to cut back on that because he's making a fortune over there after setting it up in 84. By 85 on, I told you, in March of 86, when the Midnight and I made 1 week like $4,500 a piece, because it was our first run with the Rock and Roll Express, and there were some big towns. I saw Flair's check, and he was in every town with us, and his was $13,000 for that week. So he was working with Dusty, so that means Dusty got same money, plus he was getting paid as booker. So I don't have any idea, $15,000, $20,000 a fucking week, equal to, in today's money, as they say, a lot of fucking money.
So again, going back to the question, Vince knew him. It wasn't like he was the booker for a competitor and Vince had never met him. They knew each other. They got along in the past. Vince brings him in and puts the polka dots on him. Now you have to think if Dusty Rhodes had taken Vince's offer in 1983-84, there would have been no polka dots. There was no need for the polka dots in 89 either. But he did it. Do you think it was because of Dusty's role with Jim Crockett Promotions? Or do you think Vince has a bug up his ass in some kind of way, even if it's not something where he hates the person, because Dusty turned him down? Vern Gagne turned down Vince and laughed at him. And Vince destroyed the AWA.
Yeah.
Dusty Rhodes turned down Vince, and it doesn't sound like he laughed at him.
No, Dusty would have done that. Again, I'm sure that Vince didn't tell him, Dusty, I'm going to take over every territory and run national, because then Dusty would have told somebody when the, war, that's what Vince told me he was going to do. And he never went on record as saying that Vince told him beforehand, because then everybody also would be like, why didn't you tell us? But I think that probably, Vince had a bug up his ass. And by the time 1989 came, not only was it, as we've talked about, Dusty was older and bigger and, slower, and he needed the history of being the American Dream from the day to really get over fully with an audience. But besides that, Vince had established the Hulk Hogan model and then the bodybuilders, and then, there was no bringing even Dusty in and not doing something to make it, kind of hokey, because of, that's the pattern that Vince had set for the previous 5-6 years. Here's who we push, and here's the fat guy. I mean, Sapphire, that was a rib too.
Everything was a rib on him, even if it worked.
And I'm not knocking poor Juanita. I'm saying it was, the pairing was a bit of a rib.
When did you first meet her, Sapphire, Juanita Wright?
She had to be at one or more of the WFIA conventions, didn't she? So, because I had
From St.
never been
Louis,
to,
right?
Yes, she lived in St. Louis. I had never been to St. Louis, but until we went to for Crockett or actually, I'm sorry, we were booked out of Dallas and went for Bulldog Bob Brown and the gang in '85. But I know she was at least at one of the WFIA conventions, the fan conventions. So 78, 79, 80, somewhere around there. And, she's a wonderful person, but they just completely gimmicked Dusty up to within almost unrecognizability of himself, a drastic change, and then let him keep his name. But here he is.
But there's the thing. Vince McMahon always says everything's about what's best for business, and that really means what's best for his business, but it doesn't always appear that that's the fact. Dusty Rhodes came in doing really stupid vignettes, but you get past that, wearing a tie-dyed shirt and no polka dots, and started getting a reaction, and then all of a sudden they put the polka dots all over him. It was unnecessary. It didn't help him get over. Like, it doesn't lend any... The argument, there's no argument that says the polka dots lent something to Dusty that would help him get over. It was just something applied to him because they wanted to embarrass him. I mean, that's really the only...
Well, and now, see, I wasn't there then. So was it Vince's idea, or was it one of his brain trust at the time that may have been like, Dusty, who knows? And they sold Vince on it because you could... Well, Vince, he's old and he's big and he needs to be entertaining or whatever.
But polka dots, again, no one gets over with polka dots, but he did as well as you could with it. But again, knowing what we know now, and you brought up Sapphire, I forgot about that. Everything they did to Dusty.
And Sapphire had polka dots.
Everything, that's right, she did. She had like a polka dot outfit that he wore they wore matching outfits.
He wore... Wasn't it? He wore yellow with black polka dots, and she wore black with yellow polka dots, or some other way. I don't.
Oh no, they went out there at times wearing the exact same, color scheme, polka dot scheme, whatever you would call it. But again, knowing what we know now, and looking at everything as a whole, Virgil, Ted DiBiase's servant, the African Dream, the polka dots, Sapphire. Is it about Jim Crockett Promotions, or is it about? All right, you didn't believe in me before. You didn't want to come with me in 1983. Now you're here. I'm going to have some fun with you.
Yeah, it looks... boy, you've made a heck of a case there, counselor.
I have really good lawyers. We have really good lawyers that I get to listen to at work a lot. So I picked up a thing or two.
You have been taking some notes. I would have to say guilty now that you've laid the case out in that fashion.
All right, there's the first conviction of Vince McMahon in 2024, ladies and gentlemen. But, hey, real quick.
More to come.
More to come, Jim. If Dusty had taken the offer, if that had happened today, do you think he would just be going crazy, drinking the Orgain, trying to get in the shape, get the protein in him, make sure he has the Vince McMahon look?
Well, I believe he would have, because I think that, let's face it, Dusty wasn't one to do all of the Diana Ball and the Decadurabalin and all of that type of thing that was going on in the 80s. Dusty would have wanted to drink a delicious milkshake. And that's
right.
The way now that you can do it. You can get all your protein. You don't need to go and wrestle a steer to the ground and take a Bowie knife and slice some meat off the carcass and gnaw on it to get your protein. You can do it with our friends over at Orgain. And I tell you, Brian, I hate to say it again. I have to apologize again. I had confused the issue when Orgain first came on. I said they're a delicious 30-gram protein shake. Tastes like a delicious chocolate milkshake you'd get down at the Dairy Freeze or wherever. And in addition, it grows hair. And you quickly pointed out that, no, this is not to grow hair. It's Orgain. So, other than having to shave my palms now, I've noticed that it's true. It doesn't grow hair. However, I'll tell you what, folks, you want to eat better, you want to be healthier feeling and have better energy and etc., that all the real nutrition and wholesome ingredients give you instead of this pre-packaged crap that you get at the store. I just had a Hostess apple pie for the first time in 20 years the other day, Brian.
Really? Why?
Well, that's what I was asking myself the day after. Because instead of loading myself up with all the sugar and the carbohydrates and everything, if I drank an Orgain 30-gram protein shake, it has all 9 essential amino acids. And you need your amino acids to eat up all the bad stuff. It gives you energy to keep you going. It provides muscle support and recovery, maintains a healthy lifestyle, manages hunger, and promotes healthy weight management in combination with diet and exercise. I'm going to get to the diet and exercise part soon. But in the meantime, I'm getting convenient, real nutrition with only 1 gram of sugar per serving and made without any soy ingredients. There is no soy sauce in this. I found out the hard way when I poured it over sushi. It doesn't go with sushi, folks.
No, don't even bring up such a disgusting thought. Ladies and gentlemen, start your day in the middle of your day. At the end of the day, you just need to pick up whatever it is.
Just whatever time.
A delicious chocolate fudge protein shake, 30 grams of protein. I've been drinking one in the morning every day, and I'm very happy with it.
And Orgain's founder, Dr. Andrew Abraham. I saw him on an infomercial. He was selling crystal balls.
No, he wasn't. Why would you say that? No, crystal balls.
Maybe it was Dr. Abraham Andrew that was on that. But anyway, he believes that real nutrition has the power to make a difference in people's lives, and that's why he founded Orgain, to create foods and beverages that offer better nutrition for people everywhere, not just limited to some kind of gymnasium or fitness clinic. Now, even if you're a fat fuck, you can drink one of these and feel better about yourself. Probably just one ain't going to do you any good, but you'll feel better about yourself.
Start with one.
If you do it every day, pretty soon you might. You know what Ronnie Garvin used to say? He was sitting in a gym one time, and this big fat guy came in. And he said, "Holy shit, look at how fat you are." And the guy said, "I know." And Ronnie said, "When's the last time you saw your dick?" And the guy said, "I don't know." And Ronnie said, "Why don't you dye it?" And the guy said, "Well, what color is it now?" See, you do not want to be like that guy.
What?
You want to put healthy things inside your body. And right now,
it's the worst Orgain story I've ever heard of.
Orgain 30-gram protein shakes are available at Costco or at Orgain, ORGAIN.com. And if you want to get in on the delicious protein-packed nutrition today, then head to Orgain.com/JCE And you can use the code JCE for 20% off your entire order. Orgain.com/JCE, 20% off with that promo code JCE.
Well, Jim, Orgain is a wonderful way to make sure you have the right protein, a good supplement to your regular protein intake. And some people need a cash supplement to get in there and justify lots of things. I don't know what the hell I'm saying. Jim, the big story this week, AEW, the official announcement. Warner Brothers Discovery and AEW have come to an agreement on a multi-year extension. We'll get into what's known about that in a little bit. But AEW staying on Warner Brothers Discovery. We've kind of said that we thought that was the way everything was going. We thought a deal was done.
They weren't going to go anywhere else.
Although as soon as this happened, all the AEW fans are like, you see, we proved everyone wrong. We were able to get Tony a TV deal. I don't know what they proved. They proved nothing. But what are your thoughts before we go through some of the details and what's known? And there's a lot that's unknown. But what are your thoughts on the AEW Warner Brothers Discovery renewal?
Well, yes, everybody on Twitter is like, see, we told you they were good. We didn't say they were going to get canceled. We said they were probably going to stay with TBS or WBD or MOUSE or whatever. And apparently they have gotten an influx of cash. But as you said, we don't know for what. Listen, that's all paper. I've printed out paper everywhere. Can you hear the paper?
I hear paper.
There's paper. There's like fucking 6 pages of, well, it's probably this, but it might be this, and it's rumored to be close to this, but something else is included, but we're not sure what, and if they do this, then they won't do that. What the fuck is going on here? The conditions lined up perfectly for Boy Tony, where they got a renewal despite declining numbers, because apparently the rest of TBS and everybody's numbers is declining too. But we don't know what they're paying and what they're paying for, and we'll get into it. There's also confirmation in here somewhere, I found it, that WBD does have some type of ownership of AEW or gets some kind of proceeds from it. So if WBD is paying a company that they own part of, then don't they get some of that money back somehow? So what's the goddamn deal going on here?
And again, we'll go through it, but it's also not it's not straight up the same kind of deal they structured a few years ago because of the Max component, because it's not just we're giving you X amount of dollars to air your broadcasting on TBS or TNT. Forget about even the pay-per-view cut or anything else. That's what we're paying for. Now it's your 2 shows will air on these channels. Also, it'll stream for our subscribers over here. Also, your pay-per-views will now be offered at a discounted rate, whatever that means.
Okay, I didn't even muddle that out. So if are the pay-per-views going to be on Max? What now we got to get another thing. We had to get the Netflix and the Peacock. Now we got to get the Max.
I already have the Max. Let's real quick discuss this. It was HBO Max, and then they got rid of the HBO, and now they just kept the Max part. Don't you think HBO would be the stronger brand to get behind?
Well, yeah, because unless you're an MJF fan, Max doesn't really have a lot of cachet, does it?
Home box office, HBO. It was the number 1 cable channel for movies and original programs, and bad management led us down the road to where it's now Max.
Well, but nevertheless, so if the pay-per-views are going to be at a discounted rate, then that is got to be balanced out by them. They're paying more money, but they're not then they're not going to be taking in the same amount of revenue on pay-per-view, but it's guaranteed through WBD, right? So this is
well. Which
pockets are they pulling all this money out of, and which pockets are they putting it back into?
Well, I have here with the Wrestling Observer newsletter what Dave Meltzer's reported in an issue that just came out.
So in other words, straight from Tony Khan's mouth.
Exactly. So at least we'll get that perspective here if we're going to be honest about it. We do want to hear something, and he gets it right from them. The official announcement of AEW's media rights deal with Warner Brothers Discovery was made on October 2nd, a few hours before the company's 5th anniversary of Dynamite, in a very quiet Pittsburgh. Sources close to the negotiations said that this was a 3-year deal, which will total $555 million. This is broken down as $180 million in 2025, $185 million in 2026, and $190 million in 2027. Warner Brothers Discovery has an option year built in for all of 2028 at a significantly higher number.
Well, but now, wait a minute. That's even more than what they said originally, and everybody was reporting yesterday, isn't it?
We heard, I think yesterday, the reports were in the range of $155 million. The reports beforehand were that it was going to be $170 million. This says in the Observer, 180, 185, 190, and an option year at an increase, a significant increase over that.
Well, wait a minute. Here we've got, this is from Thurston Howell III over there he said Variety reported upwards of 150 million. Sports Business Journal estimated 170 million. Fightful reported closer to 185 million. Do we yet know what the fuck's going on here?
Do we yet know who's giving out the figures?
Do we yet know what, again, they're getting a lot more money, but they're giving them a lot more programming, so we understand that. But what I'm interested in, which makes a difference, is if WBD has equity in the company as his equity stake, a minority equity stake in AEW, then it's to their best interest for them to make money, but they're going to take some of the money back from the pay-per-views and other things because they own part of it. So they're robbing Peter and paying Paul.
Well, and it also is important to note, all things considered, the world of television, AEW under the previous deal was cheap programming. It still remains relatively affordable, cheap programming for a network. Even when it comes to getting the rights to a show in syndication that's really, really popular. It's not a crazy deal. At the same time, Warner Brothers Discovery's management has been a complete disaster. The stock's been a disaster. The company, I don't know how many billions in debt. I mean, it's a disaster. The management team there. But they gave AEW this deal. And let's go through again what Dave Meltzer has here. The number, far higher than was expected by those in the sports media business world and by other business analysts, is for a combination of Dynamite and Collision on TBS and TNT respectively, believed to be remaining on Wednesday and Saturday, as well as moving the complete video library to Max. In addition, Dynamite and Collision will simulcast on Max at the same time as they do on TBS and TNT. While not 100%, the belief is the simulcast will be in the exact form as the American television product, with commercials, and not the Triller form with no commercials for international AEW subscribers. So let's stop there. You ask what's causing the increase. It's not because of TBS and TNT, it's because of Max. They're still trying to get subscribers and boost Max and offer content. They're paying the premium to get all this stuff on Max.
Well, and as well, we asked the question on what was it last show we did, show before that, where is the existing AEW library? Does it reside anywhere? Is it their YouTube channel or whatever the fuck? So they're going to have a place for it now.
And let me just say this before I go forward, and we'll break this down and talk more about what I have in front of me, what you have in front of you. But nowhere in any of this does it say Ring of Honor. Because remember, we were led to believe that Tony wanted Ring of Honor baked in. Any deal for AEW would include Ring of Honor programming.
Ring of Honor didn't get baked, it got burnt.
Well, Tony's baked. So, I mean, it works one way or the other. But no Ring of Honor. No mention of Ring of Honor, even for the streaming. For Max, no mention of Ring of Honor.
Well, no, because, again, if you were to start some outlaw promotion now and call it Mid-South Wrestling, it wouldn't be Mid-South Wrestling that people have in their mind, and I don't know that even the Ring of Honor fans that used to be around 5, 10, 20 years ago or whatever, are they even watching whatever Ring of Honor is now with Tony's B team or C team? Forgot the B team's on Collision and Rampage.
The deal carries with it that AEW will no longer share in advertising revenue with Warner Brothers Discovery, as it has since its inception 5 years ago. Let me stop there. What do you think of that?
Okay, well, is that included then in the figure, or is that in addition to the figure that they're paying?
Well, I think that
AEW doesn't have to pay them.
No, that whatever advertising Warner Brothers Discovery sells during Dynamite, there was a revenue split, it sounds like.
Oh, wait, so Warner Brothers was splitting with AEW rather than the other way around?
The deal carries with it that AEW will no longer share in advertising revenue with Warner Brothers Discovery, as it has since its inception.
I thought you said share advertising revenue, not share in advertising revenue. Boy, those small words are important when you're half deaf and can't hear. So, yeah, that's right. We heard at the start that some way or another there was some type of sharing program going on with the commercial time, but now that's come to an end.
But we don't know what kind of number that was. We don't know how significant or insignificant the advertising number was, but you have to.
Well, they ran dominoes off.
Well,
no, but seriously, is that the last time you saw a Domino's commercial on AEW?
I don't know for certain, so I can't say.
I'd like I'm more than willing to be corrected. Somebody in the cult that pays attention. Have we seen the Noid on the Nerds show lately after the pizza cutter incident?
Let's avoid the Noid and get back to Meltzer here. The entire video library will also be on Max. The deal starts in January, and the library will start to migrate at that point.
Now, is that the pay-per-views too?
It says the entire video library. Let me just finish this. Because they have to go through things, the entire library won't be up at first, and new shows will migrate to Max as the year goes on. But that's TV and pay-per-view.
Well, I was about to say, it's starting to sound like maybe WBD didn't get that bad of a deal. Every time somebody wants to watch one of the old pay-per-views, on ongoing pay-per-views, apparently they're going to get the money, right? Because they're paying for this stuff outright. And then they would take in isn't that kind of like the deal that Vince? UFC has with, with ESPN and whatever the fuck. ESPN gets their pay-per-view money.
Yeah, that's right.
So, we don't know because nobody's clear about these things.
We don't know a lot. AEW is a private company, so whatever information gets out is either what they let out or what gets out from someone else or what is just complete bullshit.
Loose lips sink ships, I'll have you know.
Rampage will be discontinued.
Thank God.
While the company is shopping around...
You know what? I would have kicked in $25,000 just to come to that fucking conclusion.
While the company is shopping around the new Shockwave show to other networks, notably Fox, as we previously reported. SE Scoops reported that the Warner Brothers Discovery deal was exclusive for cable television and likely streaming, meaning Shockwave could only air on a broadcast network. We've confirmed talks with Fox, and that Tuesday and Thursday are the dates most likely if a deal is finalized. Oh my God, day before or day after Dynamite? For another show?
Oh boy.
Oh my God.
Well, but also, aren't we just taking a massive broad jump into what if land? Did you see Fox? They just got rid of the number one wrestling program. Even if they could get AEW much cheaper, is Fox because see, here's the thing, CW, we talked about this. They have an average of 300 and something thousand people watching them most nights in prime time. And USA, they have to have some type of WWE presence to maintain their positioning on cable because of the sad state of affairs. You know, it comes down to everything on television is abysmal. I think that's why nobody's watching it. But would Fox want a primetime program that would do maybe 500 or 600, 700,000 people at this point in their life? Or are we talking about FS1 or FU1 or whatever.
Well, according to this, we couldn't be talking about FS1 because that's cable.
Oh, that's right. So it would have to be Fox or nothing.
It would have to be Fox or CBS or Channel.
Well, but I mean, it would have to be a network. But you know what I'm saying.
No, but that's the issue. And the other question is, if Fox was going to air AEW Shockwave, whatever that is, I'm assuming it's going to be a live show the day before Dynamite. I guess we're also assuming that it'll be Tuesday or Thursday. So it would be. I was going to say, who knows? Like CBS has all that crap on Sunday afternoons we always talk about. I always say, why isn't AEW in a spot like that? But if it's Tuesday and Thursday, it wouldn't.
But then we also found out that the fucking Bronco bull riding inseminator people from Branson, Missouri are paying for that time.
Well, let's go back to the...
That's what, and again, look at the abysmal numbers of television. I am shocked every time I see these numbers of, wow, this was the #1 program with almost 1 million people.
And by the way, once these shows are streaming on Max, HBO it should be, that's going to definitely change the ratings because people are going to start watching it there. And also it's going to be live on the West Coast on Max. So you're not going to have to wait. You can be able to watch it live if you got home early from work or school, I guess.
Well, now, come on. School, I believe, but do any of those fans work?
Well, let's go back to the reporting here in the Observer. The deal also includes pay-per-view events on Max. This will start at some point in 2025, as Max, as of right now, does not have pay-per-view capabilities. The pay-per-views will be...
Oh, God, I went through this with Ring of Honor and Sinclair Broadcasting in 2011.
The pay-per-views will be discounted from the $50 price charge currently, and in return, AEW will focus its pay-per-view promotion in the US on Max as the prime distributor. However, to order pay-per-views from Max, like with UFC, you have to have a monthly subscription to the service at $9.99 a month.
Ooh.
Well, $9.99 a month, or if your cable system gives it to you for free like ours does.
Well, but see, and
it's
I'm
part
not
of the HBO package.
I'm not talking about, we've established that the people likely to follow AEW will spend an extra $10 to do it, but just you have to go through more steps now. Oh, we got to subscribe to this to get that, to when they figure out how to do this and that. One would think that will have an effect on the 10% of people that just kind of, maybe wing it and just, I get that right now, or whatever that percentage is.
Well, again, if they're selling it at a discounted rate on Max, that will, no matter what, cut into the pay-per-view revenues. And we've been led to believe at least...
Well, but so they're still going to be able to sell a pay-per-view.
Right.
Like WWE's doing with Peacock and so you can see it on real television, but it's going to be cheaper over there with the Max people.
I'll be watching it on Max. It's just like Peacock. I mean, for WWE, it'll be perfect.
I'll be doing this. I'll be watching on whatever I can fast forward the easiest.
All right. Well, let me go back to this. Warner Brothers Discovery has shared in pay-per-view revenue by having a cut of the gross revenue when they were on BR Live, since discontinued, and Bleacher Report, which shut down. For now, they won't have a cut until Max is equipped with pay-per-view capability, and the pay-per-view shows will air on regular television and satellite, cable, Thriller, pay-per-view.com, and YouTube pay-per-view until Max goes up. When he... Just list everything, Dave. When the shows go up on Max, it is not exclusive, but Warner Brothers Discovery would get a cut of the Max buys. But pay-per-views will remain on television pay-per-view, as well as other carriers, in addition to Max. He's saying wait. Over and over.
But back up. So now, wait a minute. Are they putting them on Max cheaper, but Max gets a cut, or AEW gets a cut, or who gets the money here? What is he saying?
If it's on Max, you're going to have to subscribe for $10 a month. Then you're going to have to buy the pay-per-view, which will be cheaper than $50.
Right.
Whatever you pay, Max is getting a cut. They used to get a cut from Bleacher Report. This is their cut.
But if they're already paying AEW this massive rights fee, then wouldn't they get all of it? we're buying this product from you to put on our fucking deal, so we're getting the money back this way, or how?
And what about the idea too? What did it say here?
So wait a minute. Now who's on first? If AEW is being paid by WBD a big rights fee to provide all this programming for Max, but when they put the pay-per-view on Max goes ahead and gives AEW a cutback. But since WBD owns part of AEW, they get a piece of that back. Boy, howdy, there's going to be some busy fucking accountants around here.
And what do you think about the idea that, what did it say here? AEW will focus its pay-per-view promotion in the US on Max as the prime distributor. So everything's going to be, watch it on Max, watch it on Max. They're going to drive away to the level WWE did most of the pay-per-view, the cable television pay-per-view buying audience, and everyone's going to move to Max, so it's going to cut their pay-per-view revenues.
But they're getting the money guaranteed from WBD, but it's got to be offset by the revenue that they're going to lose on doing it themselves and selling a bunch of TV pay-per-views, because that's pretty much their strongest.
Oh, well, let me go on here. The
subgenre, I should say.
The deal for pay-per-view will not be like WWE with Peacock, where Peacock purchased the rights from WWE to the shows in the US market for far above what WWE had been making from all of WWE Network revenue, which led to the WWE Network being shut down in the US. It will also not be like the UFC deal with ESPN Plus, where UFC continued Fight Pass, but sold the US pay-per-view rights for a figure said to be based on what UFC was earning in the US market on pay-per-view during the Ronda Rousey-Conor McGregor era. But ESPN...
Which would be equivalent to the Rock and Austin era, right?
But ESPN Plus charged extra for the shows, plus you had to be an ESPN Plus subscriber, and if the price per show rose to $79.99, although they are now discounting $10, if you order more than a week in advance.
Good Lord.
I may have read that a little wrong there, but hold on.
I bet you he's written it wrong, too.
In this case, Max and WBD are not purchasing the pay-per-views, nor guaranteeing any money for them. They are just a distribution arm and make their money off the end of the revenue split. AEW is getting a more favorable split than they have traditionally gotten from television, but the $555 million deal does not include a pay-per-view money guaranteed, and the hope is AEW maintains or grows its total income on shows with the promotion on Max. What do you think?
I think it's confusing. And like you said, if they're going to lose most of the domestic pay-per-view television audience because they're promoting the Max. Now, if they promote the Max and the Max gives them a better cut than they've been getting from the TV pay-per-view distributors, then it basically comes down to whether they can get enough people to subscribe to Max to then buy the pay-per-views that they've been buying, whether they'll make as much or more money off of it.
Yeah,
did I summarize that correctly?
You would have to think the AEW side would have wanted them to purchase the pay-per-views outright.
Of course,
yeah.
But this is what WBD is doing. Like you said earlier, is trying to get everybody to jump on the Max train.
Right, but my point is they don't even have the capabilities.
But that's probably why they're getting them, because they're like, fuck, we got a piece of this company and they got all this program and we need to do pay-per-view. So they're going to try to figure it out with AEW, and this might be fun.
Well, that's interesting. If they're going to figure out how to do pay-per-view or event purchasing on their platform just because of AEW, that is interesting. We'll see how that works out. There are still
because think about this, a wrestling company, even at AEW's level, much less WWE's level, they can guarantee you 500,000 people that are just goddamn chomping at the bit to see them wherever they go, right? So that may be the thing, well, we'll get them in the door. It's a loss leader. We'll get them in the door, and then we'll show them whatever their other programs are on Max. That, like I said, almost everything on television these days is fucking rotten. But and try to get them hooked on that to where they become part of the family.
Well, those are the majority of the details that we now know. It does say here, and we'll discuss this, the new deal would make the company very profitable going forward, even if no deal is made for a third weekly show that is being shopped around. If we go with estimates that the company lost between $20 million, based on our estimates, and $34 million, Brandon Thurston's estimate, in 2023, I would expect similar losses in 2024.
Well, how can they only be losing $20 or $30 million when they spent $50 million on a video game that went straight to the clearance bin? And by their documentation, is he spending $100 million a year on talent with as many people and as much money as he's paying them? Probably. How do you...
And those contracts are going up. And those contracts are all going up.
Yes, here comes MVP in the hurt business, folks, but also the NBA arenas, and et cetera. And then how long is it going to take them to make, if they've been losing $20 or $30 million a year for the past 5 years? I would think more at the start, but let's just say that's $150 million. How long is it going to take them to make that back? Is it profitable? Like we're breaking even and making money now, and we got to recoup the losses? Or is he trying to say...
Well, it's profitable before you look at the losses. If that helps.
Boy, that's a great fucking way to lay it. We made a hell of a profit before we looked at the losses.
Exactly.
God damn it. I don't know how in the world that any of this needs to cost this much money or make this much money. But it's a whole new world.
It's a whole new world. AEW not going anywhere. And I guess either are we. We'll be discussing it. We've been documenting it since its foundation, and we will talk about it until Tony Khan blasts off to the moon. But AEW and TBS, or Warner Brothers Discovery. See, I mean, before we end, I just got to say, the Max component is the value. I said that beforehand. If they don't come away with a Max deal, they got nothing. If they were going to get a rights renewal just based on TBS and TNT, it would have probably been a lot closer to what they were getting last year. But it's all about Max. Getting all that content up there, the live streaming, everything. They're paying for the rights to be able to use that content across the board. And now AEW is going to be advertising Max nonstop. So that's the value. It's all about that.
Do you think that they would have got any more money than they already been getting, and maybe even that much, if WBD did not have Max?
No, if WBD did not have a streaming platform like Max, no way.
Yes.
No way. No way.
So, son of a bitch, they snuck in there on the streaming.
Well, no, I mean, that's just the coin of the realm now. It's the future, and, that was what it had to be. It does make you wonder stuff like, if a TNA 20 years ago existed now, what kind of TV deal would they get just because they would have all this content? It makes you really wonder, look throughout wrestling history, all the hot shows that existed.
Yeah.
That got no money.
And
television.
Even TNA at that point was doing...
They were doing numbers. That's why I use them as the example.
Before the Hogan era, and what was that, 2010, 11 or whatever, 2008, 2009 was doing 1 million people, 1.2 million for TNA, and had all that content, and there was no streaming or YouTube or whatever the fuck. So they were always looking for rights fees from Pakistan or whatever.
And I guess we shall see if anything happens with Ring of Honor. We'll see. I mean, they're cutting Rampage, but they're adding Shockwave. So I don't know.
They're adding the potential of Shockwave. If they can only be on broadcast television, that way narrows it down for any type of wrestling programming, unless they're doing the bull riding thing on CBS. They're going to pay for a Sunday at noon.
You know what's going to probably happen next now, Jim? There are going to be listeners overseas and stuff, and they're going to want to access all this content on Max, and they're going to be locked out because of wherever they are geographically. they're going to need a service. They're going to need a friend. They're going to need someone to open a door and say, here's that content you've been meaning to watch, all that wrestling action. Someone like ExpressVPN.
Well, that's right, because they're the skeleton key. Boy, you just shove that thing in any hole and give it a quick crank. And boy, howdy, you'll be giggling because you will be able to see whatever you want to see that's out there in the old wide world. ExpressVPN can change your online location. And they can, let's say, fool the people at Netflix or over there at the Max or whatever into showing the movies and TV shows that are not available here in the United States because of some odd reason that all these billionaires are making money on and jacking us little people around. So instead, you can say, I'm going to go to France, and then I'm going to watch the Great French Lick-Off, or whatever the case that you may be interested in. Well, I don't know what they watch in France.
You certainly don't.
Well, I know what I'd watch if I was in France, but nevertheless.
The Jerry Lewis Festival?
There you go. Let's say you want to watch The Nutty Professor, and it's not available in the United States because of standards. Well, you can change your location, go to France, or you can go to Japan and put on this or that or the other thing. Well, you could probably watch the Japanese wrestling. And also, if you don't have ExpressVPN, then you would have to basically just be reduced to living in Hogwaller, Tennessee, where you live in squalor right now. But you can make people around the world believe that you live in the south of France or the north of Alaska or any other kind of resort area. And you can watch everything you want.
Resort area?
Yeah. That's sometimes last resort. You can use it to get more movies on Disney.
That's on Disney Plus.
Use it to get more movies on Disney Plus or the BBC iPlayer, where they're very polite to you and have a pleasant accent. And ExpressVPN also is going to mix up the bad guys. They're going to confuse the criminals. They're going to confound the crooks. They're going to protect you from real life monsters like hackers and data thieves that are waiting to stick their hands in your internet pocket and pull out your guts. And it comes with Password Manager, which helps you manage unlimited passwords and credit card detail. You can have all the passwords you want now, and this will manage it for you. So you know I can never remember that my password is 123 fuck you. I guess now I'm going to have to change it.
I don't think I'll ever forget it.
It's the best way to protect your privacy, folks, from the creepy stalkers and the spooky creatures out there at Halloween time. ExpressVPN. And when they put people in your walls, they will come from now till October 31st with candy. They'll give you a Reese cup before they jump in and wall themselves up in your walls to protect your first line of defense when all that evil tries to come in across the various wires into your home.
What are you talking about? ExpressVPN. How do
all the
people
hackers
can get it? How can they get it?
Well, I'll tell you how they get it in a second, but I'm saying all these hackers and these people who are trying to steal your shit are coming through the wires. So the people inside your walls from ExpressVPN, they're going to block that. They're going to have a big fight in between the studs behind your drywall. And right now, all you got to do is go to expressvpn.com/JCE, and you're going to get 3 months of ExpressVPN for free on top of whatever you want to get going from there. expressvpn.com/JCE, 3 months free. That'll take you to New Year's. So nobody will be able to hack into your computer and blow up your house until at least January the 7th.
No one will be blowing up your house. Don't worry about that. Don't think about that.
Well, that's because ExpressVPN's going to be on the job. Hey, if you want to keep your house standing, folks, that's all I'm saying. You got a nice house there.
You have a very nice, I don't know who we're talking to, but don't worry about your house. Worry about not worrying about what you're going to watch and how you're going to. ExpressVPN, Jim, how do people get it?
Well, you go to expressvpn.com/JCE and you're going to get 3 months extra, absolutely, positively free, gratis. That means you pay nothing.
ExpressVPN? Not sponsored by AEW, apparently. Not the official home of AEW.
No. They're I guess you could probably, if you get ExpressVPN, they could figure out a way where if you're in the right place, you could get Max before it happens. Because you could go to another across the international date line and tell them that you're there, and then you could watch the show the day before they do it. See, that's another service that ExpressVPN.com will provide you.
They don't provide you with that, and they don't have a time machine, to the best of my knowledge. But Jim,
well, no, it works that way. It's like yesterday in Australia now. That's the way it works.
All right, well,
or maybe it's tomorrow. I like you more today than yesterday, but only half as much as tomorrow.
Whether yesterday, today, or tomorrow, let's move on here somehow. Jim?
Yesterday.
Before we get to the debut of NXT on network TV, let's talk about the little bit of WWE Raw you watched, which included one of the most highly anticipated matches of recent times.
You have gone completely, absolutely Berjork over Braun Strowman and Bronson Reed, haven't you?
Braun Strowman, for those who have never heard Jim's nicknames before, Braun Strowman.
Well, that's what I said, or thereabouts. Well, point is, you've gone crazy.
No, I haven't. I appreciate entertaining TV. The crowds are reacting. You don't necessarily see that on all the wrestling shows. You never know what's going to happen when the freaks fight.
You want to see the Winnebago run into the fucking hatchback soccer mom's van.
This is the kind of match Jack Pfeffer would have been in the back watching.
Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give it.
Can you imagine the program?
He would have done the poster.
I was going to say, can you imagine the program? See Fat Man fly against Giant Freak.
He has to flap his arms so you can tell whether he's rolling or walking, ladies and gentlemen.
Top attraction in all of Europe, no matter who it
is. Fresh off sellout crowd in Fresno. But yes, you've gone crazy over this program. And by the way, the rest of Raw, it's not that there wasn't anything good. Punk and Drew had a good promo, but nothing really happened. They just cut a promo on the match coming up, and we already want to see it. And there was some other thing. It's a long show. But here, the big news. Hold on. Got to go back to my notes here before we talk about Bronson and Brown. Where do they... Hold on, I made sure to write this down. God, yes, it's next Monday. What is next Monday? Next Monday, October the 7th, Raw goes to 2 hours.
Oh.
So that's why I wrote that down.
What do you think of that?
Well, hopefully we'll get shorter matches amongst mid-card people and maybe not so much backstage foolery where they just stand there and fucking meander on for a few minutes.
What's it going to be like going back to 3 hours after they do that? Because this is a temporary thing, I think they announced, right?
Well, maybe if we all write in and say, boy, we like it so much better that way, we'll watch more of the cock if you'll just... Or the Netflix, whatever it's going to be on.
I guess this is that gap period where they had to sign a new short-term agreement. Short-term agreement with USA Network, and it wasn't for the 3 hours, it was for the 2.
Yes. And so we get a vacation. Vacation, all I ever wanted.
Are they on the air at 8 or 9?
Well, now that's a good question. Is it going to be 8 to 10 or 9 to 11?
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to find out.
You like the Go-Go's? You like Belinda Carlisle?
I love Belinda Carlisle.
What about Jane Weedland?
Jane Weedland is probably my favorite. The other one, what was her name? Twiggy McCarthy? What was the big tall blonde one?
I don't know who Twiggy.
I don't know. I can't remember.
Charlotte may have been her name. I don't think it was Twiggy McCarthy.
Charlotte Flair?
No, it was a different Charlotte. I think it was
Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte's Web. Charlotte Bronte.
Whoever it was.
How deep can I go?
You were about to insult her, whoever she was, but you like Belinda and Jane, is what you said?
Yes, Belinda and Jane. But back to Bronson and Brown. So they've been doing the thing where they're splashing the cars and they're wrecking things and they're just killing each other. And so they booked them in a last monster standing match where There's no rules, ladies and gentlemen. I know as hard as this is for you to believe, there's no rules. Anything goes, no disqualification. And you got to be down for the 10 count to lose the match. And within the first 30 seconds, Braun had chokeslammed Reed through the fucking announce desk, and they'd gone to the break. They build this thing up, they get him in the ring, they go 30 seconds, they break the fucking desk, and we'll be right back. That's like if Mickey Mantle was playing for the Mets and he fucking broke his leg sliding into second base, would you go right to commercial or would you hang with it to see if everybody was still breathing?
I think this is more like if you knew Mickey Mantle was going to strike out, would you just stop and go right to the commercial?
I don't think it's like that, but nevertheless. So they came back.
No, it's like Heyman. Heyman used to hide everyone's, what they couldn't do by like selectively editing. WWE just goes to commercial.
Either that or I saw, God, was it on one of the girls' matches, or maybe it was on NXT or whatever. This girl was throwing kicks that were so bad they had to cut the camera just every time because she wasn't even coming within the zip code of these people. But anyway, so they come back from the break, and just in time for us to see Mr. Strongman knock Mr. Reed off the apron through 6 chairs that they have carefully set up into a geometric pattern on the floor.
I hate you, so I'm going to set up all these chairs so it has a perfect landing for you, right?
I'm in the fight of my life. So while you're over there unmolested, down and potentially, able to be victimized, I'm going to spend my time setting up the fucking Rubik's Cube of goddamn folding chairs. So then, and by the way, in between all of these things that I'm talking about, they're moving like they're wearing concrete fucking boots. And Braun was he was walking like he was stove up when the thing started, wasn't he? Or does he always walk like that?
By the end of it, he looked, he was walking like maybe he was feeling it a little bit, but I didn't notice it at the beginning.
Well,
these are two hard-hitting giants of the mat.
Giants of the monsters of the mat. There you go. They fought back to the entranceway, and Bronson Reed picked up Braun and gave him a DVD off an equipment case through a couple of tables. And then they went back to the ring. And then they took another break. And then they came back in time to see Bronson Reed tackle the big SOB through the barricade between the ringside area and the timekeeper pit, and then he broke him through the other one, into the people. And then they got back to the ring. But then, and this is...
The longer this went on, the more entertaining I found it. Because early on, I was like, Jim was right. This sucks. This is like plotting and this. And then the longer it went on, it became such a freak show spectacle. I loved it.
It was like, what else are they going to... And here was the thing. It was getting good. It was getting so bad it was good, like you said. But when they broke through the barricade, the referee jumps down there, and he's consulting with 15 security guards, right? And that's when Bronson...
This is when it got good, when there's just people running around all over the place.
Well, yeah, but why did the referee was the only one who spoke, Bulgarian to be able to tell the foreign, security crew what it needs to be done? Why did the referee... They're back in the ring. Bronson Reed does a splash off the top. There's no referee. And then he does another splash. So then he goes out and starts throwing security in the ring. But why did the referee why would he leave the ring when there was 15 people addressing the broken barricade? See, I have a problem with that. Apparently you didn't.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying I was entertained by this whole thing.
All right, well then...
I will admit, this is not a match that I watched looking for logic. This is an example of the opposite.
Well, then here comes the spot. Because now the referee is in the ring, or is out of the ring, And Bronson Reed's hit a couple splashes. Well, he can't get anybody to count, so he goes out there and starts throwing security into the ring. But did you notice sometimes he'd just grab them and just either headbutt them or just throw them in the ring? But when he threw them in the ring, wherever they ended up rolling is where they laid there like they were dead and they were unmoving for the rest of the night. There's still 3 of them in there when this whole thing is finished. So then Bronson Reed grabs Adam Pearce and is going to throttle him, but suddenly Mr. Strongman is on the top rope and he dives off onto the group of 15 people. Now, here's the goddamn thing. Yes, there's 15 people down there, but he's only going to hit about 4 or 5 of them. And who are those unlucky son of a bitches in the middle? I would dive off the top rope onto 15 fucking people. I'd be covering my nuts. But goddamn, what could that have felt like to those people on the floor when this flying Greyhound bus comes at them? Seriously, the elbows, the knees, the whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
So then everybody sold that forever. And probably some of them meant it. And then they get back in the ring, and like I said, that's when the security guys are still laying there where they've been. And Bronson Reed goes for the superplex, and he gets it, and as they go over, boom, they land and the ring collapses, and the fucking referee takes a bump out onto the floor. I like the referee's bump the best. And somehow they had, if you watched it back in slow motion, which I did, they had gimmicked 2 of the ring posts to fold in at a certain point, which dropped the ropes, and it gave a hell of a collapse, illusion or whatever. And I don't know how they do this shit, but they've got more money in the federal government now, so they can do anything they want. But then everybody's laying there selling immobile, right? Oh my God. And the stairs are in the ring, and the dead bodies are in the ring. And then here comes Seth Franklin Rollins. He's back, ladies and gentlemen. You remember that no good Bronson Reed splashed him and hurt him. He rolled in the ring and curb stomps Bronson Reed on the stairs and then fucking jumps out, and Braun Strowman gets to his feet by the 10 count to win the thing, and he wins the Monster Mayhem or whatever the fuck this thing was. But yes, it was a spectacle, wasn't it, Brian?
I thought I really got into it just because it was such a mess. And then, it was one of those things where the guy interferes and cost the guy the match, but it made so much sense it didn't bother me at all. Seth Rollins got a major reaction.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, that was perfect. At least they tied up that loose end. But now, hopefully, we may see some Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed rather than having the Mack truck and the fucking U-Haul dumpster, have any more of these matches. I like Bronson Reed, but I like him when he can be big against somebody and use the power stuff, and he's so impressive with that, and have the other guy be the smaller guy that used the speed, etc., instead of the 2 Mack trucks bumping into each other. And Brown, I understand, they made money with giant people in wrestling since the dawn of wrestling. So it's not that I'm saying there's no place for him, but goddamn, the more you see, except if he needs to be a special partner, a goddamn attraction of some kind. Did you say the other night, on a week or 2 ago on Raw, he's doing the choo-choo running around the ring to shoulder tackle people, and he ran and missed the fucking guy. And the guy took a bump anyway, but you could even not slow-mo, just watch it. He missed the fucking guy who was standing there stationary, ready to be run into. And he just waved his arm as he went by, and the guy took a bump for him. I'm like, you gotta... Small doses, don't like the single matches, make him a special tag team partner, etc. Braun Strowman should be seen sparingly and hurt a little bit less.
And maybe run less, because it's not like he picks up speed. It looks like he hurts himself every time he starts to run. But Jim,
maybe he was ruptured. That's why he couldn't run into the stationary target. But Jim,
that was WWE Raw.
It certainly was, Brian.
Let's now travel to the past, where you and I had a discussion about wrestling's future. NXT on the CW. Let's go to the time machine. Jim, you know what that sound means. It's time to move on, and we're going to move on now to the future. The future of wrestling. Wrestling on network TV. WWE left Fox, but NXT has found a new home on the CW, Pix 11 here in New York. Jim, everyone knows what you have done to help wrestling's future, the wrestlers you train, how much you love helping the future of wrestling. What did you think of the future of wrestling on display, NXT on the CW?
I think the future is looking very, very dim. I think we're headed for an apocalypse. And by the way, this is network in name only. I have seen what has happened to the CW network. And did you see they had, right before the top of the 9 o'clock hour, they had 4 or 5 of the CW network people in the front row that they, had waved to the camera, and they talked about them, and they looked like a goddamn subdivision homeowners association. Apparently CW network had like 1.6 or 7 million people on average watching their primetime programming like 6-7 years ago, and now they're down to 300-something thousand. What the fuck is going on over there?
There's a lot of channels that have been mismanaged. And I guess whatever they're trying to do hasn't been connecting with a broad audience, but that's why they got NXT, a sweetheart deal. What is it, like $25 million a year or something? A really nice deal.
I wouldn't be surprised if this network wasn't trying to pay in fucking food coupons and gift cards. What in the world? Who's the producer of this thing? The fucking Zero Mostel?
Well, the other thing, too, is they introduced these 5 or 6 white people at ringside as CW Network, and they just stand up and they're waving and clapping. No one knows who the hell they are.
Well, they weren't all white either.
Oh.
I believe there was a woman of color, a wok, as they say.
No one says that.
They don't?
I've never heard that.
People of color, POC, women of color, wok, man of color, mock.
I've never heard of any of these things. Have you heard people use these?
Well, you have now. But anyways, I was jacked up to watch this thing because we watched NXT back in the day when the Undisputed Era and Adam Cole was good and there was things going on, and then Triple H had a heart attack and Vince went in there and made it unicorn vomit and turned it into a Nickelodeon game show, and we said, oh, fuck this. And we hadn't watched it in a while, but now a new show, new debut. They're in Chicago, CM Punk's on the show. They got some more of them Braun breakers over there? Or maybe just let's see what they're going to do here, and maybe this will be easier to watch than 3 hours of Raw or, just fresher or whatever. All the talent was in their 50s. Well, Punk's in his 40s. I guess he is, isn't he? Early?
He's in his mid-40s.
Well, mid. Well, that's younger than Michaels and Triple H, but God almighty, I couldn't wait for this thing to be over. What is this? What was this?
Well, let me just say also the steady during the entire switch over from Triple H to Vince, even though technically it was all under Vince the whole time, was Shawn Michaels. And when we have heard compliments from people in the last few years saying NXT's better or you guys should watch it, why aren't you reviewing it? It was always Shawn Michaels is doing a good job. It's definitely not Triple H's NXT. And a lot of it feels like Vince McMahon's... It feels like if Vince McMahon had a developmental 30 years ago. Like Tony D'Angelo is ridiculous.
I swear to God, I wrote that in my notes. We'll get there. But I said, this is a 1995 Vince gimmick. Shawn Michaels will start. And by the way, the program has the worst theme music ever. I said that about SmackDown last week. I changed my mind. This one, Jesus Christ. What were you going to say?
What was I going to say?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I didn't give you a chance to say it. So Shawn Michaels came out, the Senior Vice President of Talent Development and Creative. And I was thinking, good God, if in 25 years ago, if you'd have told me or Gerald Briscoe or Jack Lanza or Jim Ross or a variety of people on the roster, in the company, in the office, we're going to make Shawn Michaels a vice president of this son of a bitch. We don't know what the fuck is the matter with you. The most unreliable pain in the ass ever to the WWF. Well, no, the Warriors got that spot, I guess, but one of the most has now become not only a senior vice president, but a bald cowboy. The irony. And is Vic Joseph brand new? Did they just start him now, or has he been doing this a while, the announcer?
No, he's been at it for a while. He's been at it for a good while.
Well, he ought to quit.
He wasn't that bad. You thought he was that bad?
I don't. Well, what's Booker doing?
Compared to Booker T, ain't that good on the mic. With all due respect, he seems like a very nice guy, great wrestler. Booker T should not be on commentary. But what bothered you about Vic Joseph that's worse than? And I'm not defending him. I'm just curious. Everyone else we hear on these shows.
Well, he seems like he's younger and greener at it.
Wow, he sounds so much better now than he did a few years ago. That's even funnier.
Was he the commentator when we were watching before?
He did something before. I almost feel like he may have had a run on one of their main shows, but maybe I'm wrong. But he's been in NXT for a while. We've definitely heard him do commentary before.
I don't know. Maybe part of it was Booker. I don't know what's. A lot of times you have a guy that can do a great promo for himself, but that doesn't translate to being an announcer or a color commentator. And there you go. So Michaels comes out and he's got the little table in the ring.
Oh
no, I wasn't even going to go there because the fact that he now looks like. Who would have thought? I, today at 63 years old, have more hair than Shawn Michaels and Triple H combined.
Yeah, but with Triple H, it's by choice.
Would he have made that choice if there wasn't patches up there that couldn't be fertilized? Would you just shave everything off when you had hair like that in the past unless it had left to an embarrassing degree?
The last time I remember him having noticeable stubble on his head, it didn't appear like there were just wide patches of baldness. I think it's a look. He couldn't pull off his look with hair. He needs for the strength for all the hair to be on his beard, not on his head. Otherwise, he just looks like some long-haired weirdo. At his old age, starting to bend over a little more and everything else.
Well, nevertheless. But anyway, so Shawn, back to middle-aged weirdos. So Shawn has a table set up in the ring and he presents new championship titles, which is like saying, I'm going to give you a new jacket coat, or I'm going to go out and buy a new automobile car. Vince is gone. They can say belts. Why, of all people, a guy who was in the business back when things were called what they actually are, why can't he say new championship belts?
Is there a chance that Vince convinced some of these other people that this was a smart thing to not use the word belt? Do anyone else? Does anyone else in any... A lot of
people don't think it be like it is, but it do.
Does anyone else in WWE actually believe what Vince was preaching?
I don't. I mean, yeah, Diddy got some people to come to his parties, apparently, so some people will believe anything. But you would have to know that it was just the weirdness of Vince and his, old billionaire mind that didn't like the word belt. There's no other reason to call a belt a title. Because as we mentioned before, a title is what you the position you win, and the belt is emblematic of the championship or the title that you hold. It's not that fucking hard, but because Vince, now you've got grown adults handing people belts and saying, here's your title. It's a fuck. Anyway, so then Triple H comes out and says, are you ready?
Well, they teased it. Shawn Michaels said, I have one question for you.
Well, yeah, I have one question for you. I thought he was going to ask people to suck it, or were they ready to suck it, or whatever the fuck it was.
I don't think they're going to debut on national TV like that, but then Triple H surprised everyone by being there to ask the question with Shawn. The middle.
Well, he asked it off camera. Are you ready? And then Shawn turned around and there was Triple H stepping into the big roar. Everybody, these guys, they get a big pop. They're over. But then when we were ready, here's what we got. Julia. And I'm thinking, okay, horrible theme music. Shawn Michaels is a star. They're bringing out all the names. Not really sure yet about the commentary team. Here's Triple H, another big star. What are they going to start out with? The women's title, Julia versus Roxanne Perez. And I wrote, God damn it. So,
God damn it, she's fine?
No, God damn it. I wanted to see a fucking match. Give me some Braun breakers. I want to see what the future of wrestling is, not what the future of pissed off middle school cheerleaders is. And by the way, Mike Rome is the ring announcer. He looks like a brunette Beavis and Butthead character.
Is it going to be one of these shows? Are you going to beat up every single person you see on the show?
I'm not going to beat him up. I'm just going to give an evaluation of him. What the fuck is with his hair? Is he upset he's not tall enough? He's got to fucking tease it up like goddamn State Fair cotton candy?
I don't know. Any problems with the timekeeper? Did the timekeeper do anything to piss
Didn't see him on camera. I'll let you know, but old Roxanne Perez, she's the NXT Women's Champion. Julia is the girl that we've heard that they signed from Japan to this big fanfare. Well, Roxanne Perez needs a step stool to see over the top rope. And as I said, it looked like two junior high school cheerleaders trying to do an interpretive dance, but they got pissed off at each other in the middle of it and started pulling hair.
Why junior high school? Why not high school?
Because they're not that big.
Oh, come on. They're that big.
It looked to me like Darlin Dagmar versus Diamond Lil with better hair and makeup. I've seen smoother street fights.
That's ridiculous.
Did you see when Roxanne...
They were dwarf wrestlers. You're comparing these people in height to them?
Yes.
Oh, come on.
It ain't a foot difference between Roxanne Perez and either one of them.
Well, look, that's Roxanne Perez. She was shorter, and I think that led to some sloppiness during the match because Julia wasn't working with someone her size.
Oh, come on
someone
now.
Significantly smaller.
Roxanne Perez did a head scissors. She rolled up and put her legs on either side of Julia's head and then whipped them down. And when she whipped them down, Julia stood there for about a second and a quarter and then dove headfirst through the ropes like she was trying to commit suicide. And at that point, I started fast forwarding. I had seen enough.
Oh, come on.
What did I miss? More comedic effects?
There were no comedic effects. It was a good back and forth match. They got the fans into them. I think a lot of people thought this was maybe a way that Julia in her first match was going to win the title. And it wasn't that, and it was an exciting finish.
It was an exciting finish. It didn't make any sense. Roxanne Perez is the babyface, right?
No.
One would think.
No, she's the heel.
She was the heel? Julia comes out there with the bleached blonde hair and the big outfit and everything and blah, blah, blah. And here's this little teeny tiny. How old is Roxanne Perez? She can't be 19 years old.
Oh, see, now you're being ridiculous. I'm gonna guess 26. Let me look it up.
Oh, bullshit.
Roxanne Perez?
I thought she was the little teeny tiny baby face. And why was she doing all the head scissors and everything?
Based on what Wikipedia says, she is 22 years old, 5'1", from Laredo, Texas.
Well, anyway, the point is they had a double knockout. They're both down. And Roxanne Perez rolls out and walks around the ring on the floor and gets the title belt and rolls in the ring, and the referee stops her. And while that is happening, a hooded woman runs from the entranceway and pulls Julia out and gives her a DDT on the floor. And then I believe she chucked her back in or whatever. But Roxanne Perez did some kind of souped up sunset flip, 1, 2, 3. And then the hooded woman pulls her hood off. And the announcer said it's Cora Jade. I have no reason to doubt them because apparently they know who the fuck she is. But Cora Jade is the one who screwed over poor Julia. Blah. You mean to tell me that you thought that was a way you should debut a brand new network?
I absolutely do not think that. I think it was a good match, but I don't think if it was me and I was debuting my show and my brand on a new network, that is not the match I would start with. And I probably would have had less women on the show, actually.
Boy, well, we'll get to that. 23 minutes in, by the way, for just what we've talked about.
The fans were pretty into it. What did you think of the crowd?
Well, what building were they in Chicago? Was that the Now Arena?
Give me a second.
Or, well, while you're checking, I will bring up that some people pulled up in their cars. They're doing that thing on this show too. But then there was a video of two guys on a couch playing video games, a midget in a mask and some bummy-looking guy with an accent. And they were playing the NXT video game. And then they're playing either for or against Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. And then you see, I looked up and there's the NXT tag team belts sitting on top of the couch. So apparently the midget in the mask and the long-haired bum with an accent on the couch playing video games are the NXT tag team champions. And the bum got mad because the midget in the mask distracted him, and therefore he lost against Theory and Waller in the game, and apparently they're going to wrestle him for real next week or sometime. Did you see that segment?
You know, I missed that segment, actually. I did not.
Well, boy, howdy.
The bum and the midget. I don't know who this team is.
I don't know who the fuck they are. But they're seriously presenting their tag team champions sitting on a couch playing video games. And oh, you caused me to lose. I got pinned. You want to play another game?
Jim, as of yesterday afternoon, there were 7,089 tickets distributed, and it was the Allstate Arena, Rosemont, Illinois. This is,
shit.
According to WrestleTix.
So they would have more than filled up, I believe, the Now Arena, but the Rosemont Horizon. So they had, for NXT, 8,000 people that they probably ended up with, or thereabouts. Ain't bad, even in the Rosemont Horizon, which I believe seats about 16 or 18. But the people that were there apparently have been watching the NXT television show because they actually liked some of the things that were going on here.
Yeah, see, that's the weird thing. Even more than like an AEW situation where we see it happen in real time. We haven't watched NXT in a while, and the fans there are into it, it seems. And not a lot of it seems very good.
Yeah, I think it's the idea of that they want to like it, so they're overlooking some things.
You would think with Triple H back in charge, well, not back in charge of WWE, that maybe developmental would look a little bit more like what his vision of that wrestling product was. Not, this where, it's a superstar training program, not a professional wrestling developmental television show.
Well, but let's think about this. Let's say you're a movie producer and you want to remake Gone with the Wind, but the only actors available to you are Moe, Larry, and Curly.
I don't think those are the only actors available to WWE.
Then why
who's
wouldn't
on this show is who they chose to be on this show.
Well, why would they pick these people to be on the show if they had some more of them Braun Breakers?
Well, there aren't a lot of Braun Breakers, but who knows who's in the pipeline.
Well, I know who's on the pipe, apparently. So then Punk was in the back. He's pulled up earlier, and he was talking to Ava. not Ava Gardner now, mind you, not Ava Gabor, but Ava Rock. Could you understand a word she mumbled?
She was about the size of Punk. She doesn't really speak in a coherent way. She doesn't have any charisma or personality on the show. And she's the general manager, a position typically given to former wrestlers with lots of experience, not the daughter of a wrestler. No, and you know, it's weird. You could see, and someone said this to me a few weeks ago, but I don't watch too much NXT. Sometimes I'll have it on in the background. You never see her on the show. They've clearly found a way to keep her on the show and minimize her on the show by making her the GM in one segment every once in a while.
Well, the deal was they were setting up for Punk to be the referee in the main event and call it down the middle, but, you know, she had marbles in her mouth. And then Brian Pillman Jr. walked in. He's Lexus King now. Got very weird hair. And he said something to Punk, and Punk said, well, out of respect for your father, oh, no, I'm trying not to be like him. And then Punk gave him some advice, and I can't remember what it was, but basically it was either, you know, admit that you have the genes inside of you or fight against them or whatever the fuck. Well, thank you for giving me that advice. I don't know what's going on there. Any comments on Brian Pillman Jr.'s hair?
Not really. I mean, I don't know why he didn't wrestle on this show. They had a lot of people I would have liked to have seen wrestle on this show instead of some of the other people that wrestled on this show.
Well, that's a perfect lead into the next people wrestling on this show. They did a history package on Zachary Wentz and Wes Lee, and they used to be partners, and there's been ill feelings and bad blood, and etc., and now they're going to have a street fight. And I remember, if I'm not mistaken, these two were when we started watching the Nickelodeon version of NXT. These two were the tag team that I said, what the fuck? They were just, one guy would do a standing backflip and the other guy would shove him down on top of the other guy. Just clumsy ass tag team shit, prison tattoos, and bad hair. And apparently they're still there 3 or 4 years later.
Well, no, the one guy was fired. He's now working for TNA, but because TNA works with WWE now, he's able to, you know, do stuff like this.
They fired him, but he came back?
He's the one. Do you remember they signed them and they were giving him a push and we checked him out and we really didn't like it. It was worse than AEW from what we saw. And then turned out he was married to some wrestler because they all just fucking marry each other at this point. And it never turns out well. He was married to a wrestler and they had some kind of breakup. She alleged there was abuse. He said there wasn't. And then she put up a picture of him with a Hitler mustache.
He's the Hitler guy.
Doing a Hitler salute. WWE fired him. And then I guess as time has gone on, maybe he's recognized how ignorant and wrong that was. And he's been wrestling for TNA. And that led to the natural, let's get him to work for us without working for us situation.
Christ. Well, Zachary Wentz and Wes Lee had a street fight.
The babyface was the Nazi.
Well, I couldn't tell, actually, which was which here, but, you know, well, he's a reformed Nazi.
That's right. We don't know what's going on.
So Zachary was introduced at 185 pounds. Wes Lee was introduced at 178 pounds. If they introduce them at that, doesn't it mean 165 and 158?
They're not going to shave the weight, that's for sure.
Well, what the fuck? You can't tell me that you're introducing somebody that legitimately weighs 178 pounds, has 178 pounds on a pro wrestling program, and expect people to, what the fuck are these children? And again, these two and everybody in their history video look like juvenile delinquents with prison tattoos and bad haircuts. And they're wheeling a shopping cart full of shit to the ring for their street fight. And 40 minutes into this program, the first two men that we've seen wrestle are having a garbage match, and I was bigger than both of them when I was 16 years old. So just real quickly, At one point in the ring, they had 6 chairs. They set a giant plywood sheet up on 4 chairs on the floor, and then both of them got on the apron and jumped off together so they could break it. And then they used the garbage cans and the kendo sticks and the hoopla. And then they had a table set up on the floor, and I don't know which, the black guy pushed the white guy off the top rope, and he flipped to land on the table 10 feet away, but he overshot it and just landed on the fucking floor. And the table's not even knocked over.
Yeah, that was bad.
And bad for him.
Bad for him.
And all right, whichever one was which.
Wesley was the one with the dreadlocks who works for NXT.
Which one got up on the ropes and wrapped the logging chain around his knees?
I think that would have been Wesley.
Well, he jumped off and double knee dropped the other guy who was sitting, waiting for it in a folding chair, conveniently enough, and then pinned him 1, 2, 3. And my comment was somebody should call Juvenile Hall.
How does this compare to an AEW match of the similar? I mean, we've seen matches like this on AEW where it's just weapons up the gazoo for no reason. How does this compare?
This was better because it was shorter. It didn't take as much time.
How long did it go?
It didn't go as long as those AEW fucking fiascos go with the and nobody shoved a hypodermic needle in anybody's face. Otherwise, it was, what's the difference?
Well, so far, like you said, on NXT, we have the women's title match, and now we have a garbage match. We had Punk and Ava and Pillman Jr. in the back. What's next?
Well, the 9 o'clock hour with the CW network executives. And then we had Miz TV. Miz, Jesus Christ, we can't get away from him here. Miz TV, the special guests were Oba Femi and Tony D'Angelo. And you said, oh, we got to watch Oba Femi, right? And I said, okay, here he comes. He's the North American champion around there. He's got size. He looks good. He's got some oomph to him. He has 2 names that nobody has ever been called before. And as he sits down, I'm thinking, okay, they might have something here. And then here comes Tony D'Angelo. He's got 2 stooges and a girl, but they just come out with him and then send him to the ring. He goes to the ring alone. He's the Don of NXT. Oh. And he's a bargain basement Danny DeVito. It's like a Vince McMahon gimmick from 1995. He's doing the wise guy, the fake wise guy accent.
It's an Italian gimmick before The Sopranos.
Yes, and the only excuse for this program and the unprofessionalism and the stupidity involved with the video games and the small children and the fucking rotten music is they're trying to appeal to young people. Because all those things appeal to young people. But how is this this would have been goddamn cliche when The Godfather came out in 1972. What the fuck? It looks like a 1995 Vince McMahon gimmick next to the Goon and T.L. Hopper.
Well, the other thing, too, is, and maybe I'm wrong, because I know we saw some of this guy way back when we stopped watching NXT. This was one of the reasons we stopped watching NXT. I thought he was like a Brooklyn, New York gimmick, which made it particularly offensive because no one is that gimmicky, ever. Trust me, I got a lot of friends, North Jersey, all over New York. No one is that gimmicky. But he said here he's from Chicago. But the first thing Oba Femi said is what I was thinking. I don't believe anything you're saying, and I don't think you believe anything you're saying. And that's what I think.
Speaking of what Oba Femi was saying, so I said, okay, he looks great. He's got size. They're using him. He's the North American champion. And when Danny DeVito or Tony DeVito or Tony D'Angelo or whatever his name is started talking, I said, oh, no, I'm just going to skip ahead to Oba. So I skipped ahead and Oba opened his mouth and I said, oh, fuck no. God damn it.
Well, what's the problem with him?
I'm thinking, am looking at this guy. If he could talk like Ernie Ladd and just work a little bit, holy mackerel, you can draw some money with this guy. He opens his mouth. He sounds like Prince Nana. What kind of accent is he? Sound like Eddie Murphy in Coming to America.
It's probably an accent.
Can we go to Queens? What the?
It's his accent. What do you want him to do?
I want to know where the fuck he's from, first of all, that he's got that accent. Is that a real accent or is that a put-on accent? If it's put on, he needs to drop it. And
he's from Nigeria. He's the real deal.
It doesn't matter.
Hey, well, he's the real deal, except Femi, it turns out, is not his real name. His real name is Isaac Udugbison.
Isaac, who dug this one?
Udugbison.
Okay, Isaac. What about Isaac Hayes? Oh, they already got a Carmelo Hayes. But I mean, it was fucking hilarious that he opens his mouth and sounds like Prince Nana or Eddie Murphy in Coming to America. And from then on, I couldn't.
The two examples you have of people from Africa? What is this?
Well, hey, more people have heard Eddie Murphy in Coming to America in the United States than have spoken to somebody from Nigeria.
Yeah, I agree with that. What's Prince Nana doing on the list?
Prince Nana is trying to do that accent as a fucking
guy's done one promo in 10 years.
Oh, he did. Well, he did him in Ring of Honor. That's the way he sounded. It's not my fault they won't let him talk. But I gave up on this whole thing. I'm like, I didn't want to laugh when Femi opened his fucking mouth, and all I can think of is goddamn him and Arsenio, cutting up around town.
All right.
So they're going to fight next week. So can he wrestle?
Well, I wanted you to see him wrestle. I didn't know they were going to have him in one of these stupid Miz TV segments.
Well, I will watch a clip.
Let's check out
later.
the match next week at least so we can see that.
So then the next contest was Jada Parker and Lola Vice versus Fatal Influence, who is Jane Wayne Gacy, remember her, and Fallon Henley. And they have a girl in her corner, and I couldn't understand the ring announcer. Who's the girl in her corner?
Oh, I didn't pay attention to any of this shit. Kaylani Jordan, I think is her name, was at
she was on Color. Yeah,
very
she was
attractive woman. Very, very attractive. But no, I wasn't. This is where they go too far. I think the opening match shouldn't have been the opening match, but having that women's title match was a good match. The crowd liked it. But they don't need to be, for every men's segment, a woman's segment. And that's what it felt like, and that's what NXT has felt like the last couple of years when I've watched it, and a lot of this shit just doesn't appeal to the male wrestling fan. Yeah, it really makes you wonder why they're doing it.
Well, you know why they're doing it, don't you?
Why?
'Cause whatever Lola wants, Lola gets.
Oh, boy.
Whatever Lola wants, Lola gets. And I wanted to fast forward, and I got it. So the heels won, and then Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill came out as a surprise and just beat the teetotal shit out of them. So I don't know what heat they got there, because then they got spread all over the canvas. Or Kansas.
Okay, Kansas. Every segment so far. Shawn and Triple H intro Julia's match. Punk and Ava backstage with Pillman Jr. Not the Zachary Wentz match. Miz TV in the previous segment, and then Jade and what's her name? Bianca. Coming out here. They had someone in every segment almost from the main roster.
Well, and that will continue. Because, like Mussolini, saving shitty TV, CM Punk came out to see what the fuck was going on. And you know what? Like Punxsutawney Phil, he should have seen his shadow and gone back in the hole. And he wouldn't have to fucking be involved in this next match. Oh, boy.
I take it you liked it.
Trick Williams made his entrance, and the people chant, "Whoop that Trick." Now, if they like him, why do they want people to whoop him?
No, a Trick is a hooker that works for a pimp, right?
Well, no, that's back in the old days when people used words that people knew what the fuck they mean. Now they change them every 5 fucking minutes.
I guess the trick would be the customer for the hooker, right?
Well, yes, but still,
I don't know how this works.
There is a thing they chant at ball games now. Whoop that Trick. I don't know why, but Trick Williams is his name, but the people chant whoop that Trick. Apparently, they want people to whoop Trick Williams. And Booker wouldn't shut up here. Whoop that Trick. I mean, what the fuck is going on here? So, but the people like him. And then remember Ethan Page from AEW? Well, here he became. And he now is the NXT champion. So I would say how the mighty have fallen, but actually how the small have risen. So another guy that Tony couldn't figure out what to do with or how to keep or whatever, and I never particularly liked him anyway, but they bring him over here to make him some kind of fucking star for these people. But Punk was the referee, and he was going to call it right down the middle. Brian, give me your interpretation or impression of this contest, if you would. I don't want to be the one to hog all the spotlight here.
I will now do my interpretation of this match. Ask him! Ask him! How was that?
That was pretty good.
Thank you. It was a back and forth match between Trick, who I believe they said was a former champion, and Ethan Page, who came over from TNA, that TNA boarding school that's now producing so much talent for them to have lose on national TV. I like Ethan Page. I always did. I know why you had a problem with him. I understand why. I looked past it, partly because I didn't watch that. I never saw it. But I always thought he had talent. I always thought he could do a good promo. I always thought he was a natural heel. And I always thought he was misused in AEW, whether it was him and Scorpio Sky with Dan Lambert or him with the Hardys. He never had a chance. And they're giving him a chance here.
Well, then what do you attribute the blahness of this match to, Trick?
I thought, and again, I haven't watched a lot of NXT, I thought Trick was quite sloppy. Or at least
sloppy Trick.
Or at least there, or at least there was a sloppiness in the way these two work together. At least that's what I thought. Now, I don't know if I'm just such a cynical fan now that I pick up on more sloppiness than I used to, or if there's just more sloppiness than there used to be.
Well, here's the thing. Trick Williams is one of these guys that is very athletic and has a lot of leaping ability, and he's in good shape, and he's got lean physique and everything, and he's awkward at pro wrestling movement. You can be a great athlete and be awkward at the same time, depending on how you're trying to apply the athleticism, right? And he's green, and maybe he's got happy feet, or he's just, here's a guy who can leap up in the air and spread his wings and clothesline a guy and whatever, and that looks, wow, athletic, and he can't throw a punch. He's standing flat-footed. He's throwing his arm out in a circle. That awkward movement when it comes to applying shit to wrestling stuff. And he went at one time, he was running in and went to do the goddamn reverse neck breaker, running reverse neck breaker, and he missed Page's fucking head. He went to grab it and missed it, went right past it, and just and Page took the bump anyway. But that's the thing. They established Punk as the referee. There was some story to it. He separated them. He counted a couple 2 counts. He blocked a punch. He caught the guy with his foot on the ropes. And then they just had a match that was it was a match. And at one point, Page powerbombed Trick through the announce desk. And I swear to God, Trick momentarily rolled back into the ring and jumped up and knee lifted Page and missed him. But then Paige fell on Trick and got a 2 count. So then Punk helps them both up when they're both down to continue fighting. And that's where they did the sloppy 1-2 into a hockey fight, missed the neck breakers, several false finishes. And then Paige gave Trick the go to sleep in front of Punk and got a 2 count.
What'd you think of that? That spot where him and Punk were jawing at each other, and then what did he say? Punk said, "You're a son of a bitch," and he goes, "I'll show you how big of a son of a bitch I could be," and he does the move right in front, not facing the camera, but facing him. What'd you think?
Well, that's bringing. They tried to do something here where that Paige would have some kind of goddamn bitch, but I don't know what to. I like the idea of doing the guy's move in front of him, right? And he did that and got a 2 count. And then Paige goes for the razor's edge, and at this point, Trick kicks his feet and gets out of it and lands on his feet and just goes into Punk's arms like he's giving him a hug. And then Punk turns him around and sets him in a corner. And Paige charges, but Trick moves and hits him with another knee lift and pins him 1, 2, 3. So if you're trying to set up that when Paige gave the guy Punk's move in front of Punk, that Punk would then do something to Paige in some way, he didn't do anything. Trick just came down in his arms and there was no... Do you see what I'm saying here? Did that look awkward to you?
I mean, it looked awkward. It didn't look super awkward, but just regular awkward.
Well, but the thing is, Punk didn't do anything to influence the match in any way. He didn't pull him out of the corner so that Paige missed.
Right down the middle. That's what he said.
He didn't pull him out of the fucking finish that Paige had him in. But Paige had done the thing to do his move in front of him to piss him off so that there wasn't even anything that was done where Punk was still neutral, but he made a difference accidentally in the thing. He just caught Trick and turned him around. It was an odd finish to me. But now there's a new champion.
New champion. Trick, and the people really went crazy.
But that's probably why they were there, because they were already crazy. You'd have to be crazy to go to this fucking show on purpose.
How long can they tour with this?
Till next week. After they get out of St. Louis, I hope Randy Orton knows. Maybe they're giving away tickets out there at Emo's Pizza. There's as many Emo's Pizzas in St. Louis as there will be fans in the fucking building. Probably about 5,000 or 6,000 of them.
Any closing thoughts on the main event? Trick Williams, Ethan Page, Punk as the referee?
This wasn't like, the glory days of the Attitude Era where Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, and The Undertaker were all in there and the referee was involved. Though it was just kind of like blah. It was a blah match and a blah finish. And the biggest stars on the show didn't wrestle. They refereed, they ran in, and they ran the show. But everybody else was, gee, Minnie, Pete, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be negative, but I was looking forward to it. And with half the thing being wow to begin with, Women of Wrestling or whatever, there wasn't, and the children's street fight, are we going to give it one more week because St. Louis and Randy Orton?
Well, I don't care about Randy Orton being there. I want to see the Oba Femi match. I'm at least willing to watch that.
If we know that Orton's going to be there and it's in St. Louis, there's going to be some other names there.
It's gonna,
they'll have a crowd.
That's always the worst thing when it's like Randy Orton in his hometown for some other show. He just comes out and gives a nice little introduction, and then interacts with one of their stars. Like, it'll be the same thing it always is.
Maybe he'll talk to Ava.
Oh boy, are they flying her to each place? Jesus.
No, they're putting her on a fucking Greyhound. What do you mean, are they flying her to each place?
The only appearance she made was in one little tiny backstage segment for a second.
Look at here, the money they got. You're worried about Ava's fucking plane ticket. Even if she's in business, I think they can hide that expense at this point. I'm not saying she's earning her keep or in any way necessary, but I don't think we ought to worry about them being fiscally irresponsible because they're giving her a plane ticket.
I don't think that was really the concern, but
I know
way.
what you mean.
Either way, that was, I was about to say AEW Dynamite. NXT on CW week 1. There will at least be portions of week 2 reviewed, and then we'll see how it goes from there.
I would double dog dare any son of a bitch out there to watch this 2 hours of television and then watch any of the 2-hour OVW specials that we did and tell me which was the better television wrestling show. Honestly, not talking about production budget, but which did you rather enjoy watching? And holy shit, what the fuck? This is up. And we were at least on a WB affiliate, not the CW. Where did UPN go? WB and what was the other network that merged to become the CW? There was a WB network, there was the UPN network, and there was another network, and they merged to be CW, and I can't remember. What the fuck? Help me. Are you on mute?
I'm on mute, but I don't have the answer, so I can't really help you. I have no idea. There was UPN, there was CW.
They kept the W from WB network. What was the other network? There was 3 of them.
I don't know, but that was NXT on CW. And
yeah,
I think AEW may have a better show, but we'll see.
You know, boy, I'll tell you what. That is, at least now Tony Khan can be proud of something. However rotten his show is, it wasn't this rotten. At least we had more things to laugh at on Tony's programs.
We are in the future, ladies and gentlemen, a warm and fuzzy future. Jimmy, there.
Yes, I heard that sound once before as a small child when I got trapped in a septic tank.
Oh, how'd that work out?
Well, fortunately, I was able to be expelled.
Well, we will talk about that story, I'm sure, in Happy Talk at another time. But Jim, we mentioned before, there are more things to laugh at than just Tony's program. There's NXT. But what if you want to get away from the laughter? What if you want to get away from the ridicule? What if you want to just listen to some fine tunes, walk down the street snapping your fingers? Hey, man, what's happening? That kind of stuff.
Just kind of walking down the street, just grooving on a Sunday afternoon.
The Rascals.
Feeling. You don't want to get away from the laughter and the frivolity and the jocularity and the merriment and the mocking. You want to embrace it, but you don't have time because there's so many rotten programs to watch. How in the world do you have time? Well, folks, with the Raycon everyday wireless earbuds, I'll tell you what, you can do 2 things at once. Even if you can't walk and chew gum at the same time, you can walk and listen, or ride and listen, or sit and listen, or even lay and listen. We don't care what position you get in as long as you listen. And we've established, Brian, several facts about the Raycon earbuds, right? We've established that they cost less and they sound great, right, than any of the other brands.
Right.
We've established they got the 32-hour battery life. We established they've got a bunch of new features I'm going to go over because I think that we can apply them to something that our listeners are very interested in. And we've established that they are available in a variety of vibrant colors to complement any and all skin tones. However, they're still working on the heartbreak of psoriasis, so you folks stand by. But think about this. No, I'm telling you, think about this. I've come up with this.
You're telling me.
These things, you can listen to podcasts with these things. You can listen to music. You can listen to basically anything you can listen to on any other earbuds or headphones or things like that. And you can pair these things up with your blue teeth, right?
Right. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I didn't realize that was one of those ones you were throwing to me. I thought it was just
it was not a rhetorical question because, I don't know about the technology here. So I got to make sure I'm talking correct to the people. I don't want to lead them down the primrose path. If you can, and you can connect, you were talking about connecting your TV to the blue teeth, right? You can do that too.
You can
your smart television there.
You could connect your smart television so you could hear it on your Raycon, of course, yes.
Well, yeah, so what about this then? See, I've just thought of this idea. You connect your Raycon's blue teeth to your TV's blue teeth, and that way, while you're walking down the street, instead of snapping your fingers,
Bluetooth.
Well, if you're poor and you only can afford one, it'll still work. But instead of snapping your fingers walking down the street, you're laughing and entertaining yourself at all the bad wrestling. But at the same point, the new features like the active noise cancellation, if you're listening to the bad wrestling show, hit the noise cancellation button, you won't be able to hear the commentary. So right there, that's a feature that you can use. And the quick charge function. Let's say that your earbuds are as dead as fucking AEW. Well, you can plug them in for 10 minutes and you can get 90 minutes to zip through more than enough of AEW to satisfy your needs. And for any of the promotions, any of the programs, the earbuds are weatherproof and or sweat resistant. So when these people give you a bad segment, they're just basically pissing right in your face. It won't short circuit the earbuds. So all of these features, Brian, they're applicable to the wrestling shows. But you think that idea that I have will work?
Right.
Where you could actually listen to television on your earbuds.
Well, I think you could listen to what you're watching on your TV, on your Raycon earbuds, the finest earbuds, as you said before.
Should I trademark that idea then and start leasing it out to Raycon and all of the people that...
That's not your idea. You and Hotchkiss...
I just came up with it.
You and Hotchkiss and whoever you have in your little circle of technology goofs. I don't know what this is. Gurus.
Technology gurus. They show you the path. They enlighten you.
Having meetings in front of Radio Shack at 3 a.m.
Well, it's a smaller crowd that way. We didn't want everybody to know what we were up to. But anyway, the idea that I just had would work then is what you have to admit, that you can pair these things up and listen to television.
It works with Raycon, and ladies and gentlemen,
yes.
You can work with Raycon because they are fine and they are ready for you. Jim, tell them how people can get them without saying anything else that is not helpful.
I'll tell you what, you can save a lot of money too. You can get half price if you play your cards right, because right now, if you go to buyraycon, BUYRAYCON, buyraycon.com/JCE right now. This very second, drop your baby if you're holding it. Throw it out the window. You won't need it anymore. You're going to get earbuds. You're going to get 20 to 50% off site-wide. It's like it's a smash and grab. What the fuck? You're breaking into their theoretical brick and mortar store, and you're only leaving half the money. Up to 50% off everything site-wide on buyraycon.com/JCE. When you use the /JCE, of course, that's how they know to give you the discount. Otherwise, they're going to charge you through the nose.
All right. Well, that's Raycon. One more time. Concisely, what's that promo code?
Concisely. Buyraycon.com/JCE.
Well, there we go. We love Raycon. And speaking of love, there's a lot of love being spread this week, Jim. Between Warner Brothers Discovery and AEW, the big television rights renewal deal, the news came out earlier in the day, just before Dynamite. And of course, AEW Dynamite had a big show in front of a big crowd for Dynamite.
Where were they?
Pittsburgh.
They were in Pittsburgh. That's correct. I remembered that because Britt Baker had her hometown colors on. But what kind of audience did they draw for this 5th anniversary event on October 2nd? I did not get a crowdage or an estimate of the crowdage. Do you have any such knowledge as that?
I am right now looking for the crowdage. What was the name of the building they were in, Jim?
The crowdage arena in Pittsburgh. I don't fucking know. It's not the Igloo anymore. It's not the old Civic Arena where the Crusher and Bruno wowed them. It's one of these newfangled arenas, probably named after some kind of hoity-toity fucking company or maybe some cheap fast food.
According to WrestleTix, at least as of Wednesday, they were at the Peterson Events Center, 4,425 tickets distributed.
Son of a gun for them these days. That's they shot almost one side of the building. What's that place hold? Do you have any idea? Because I've never heard of it. It's a new one.
I'm looking at the market-to-market comparisons. Hold on. I don't have that in front of me.
Well, so you came unprepared.
Yo, WrestleTix, you should always include the capacity. Actually, it does.
Yeah, actually, that
info. Yeah.
As I've mentioned, that is one of the things we had to write in our books. Vince insisted. You got the town, you've got the date of the last show, the date of the next show, and the building capacity. And or if it's set up for something different, you've got that / the building capacity.
The building capacity, at least for Pittsburgh Panthers men's basketball, 12,508.
Ouch. All right, well, they had 33% of a house then this week, as opposed to we were always knocking them for a quarter of a house.
Hey, give them credit. They may have been bigger than the average Dynamite audience, but they were also as quiet as them.
They were trying to fit in and act normal. No, there were moments of raging cheeriness in between moments of sitting there going, what the fuck is going on here? And let's get to it. Jesus Christ. They started with a cold open. I'm not sure this was, they'll either start out with here the fucking match is starting and we're going to start hitting each other with chairs, or they've got the plumber and his gang in the back in a warehouse somewhere with ominous music and speaking in riddles and or tongues while being shot in an artful way. I'm talking not shot, but it's not the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, shot video-wise, shot with a camera.
And at one point, there was a second camera all of a sudden.
Well, there's a second camera so they can get the sideways shot so that they can... You think they're doing this in one take? Well, they're like doing not only a promo where they're speaking in complete fucking riddles, but they're doing some kind of fucking Temptation, Eddie Kendricks, David Ruffin fucking choreography, stepping up and back to the camera. So you think they're doing that in one take? They got a second camera so they can fucking cut.
That's a very good point. I mean, everything is so rehearsed and it's definitely just all performance-based, but it's one thing when a wrestler does a promo and they're facing the camera or facing even slightly towards the camera, like that weird Vince angle they used. But when you're watching them talk to the camera from the side and you realize they're talking to no one, it takes away the effect.
There's some drunk guy in Tyler, Texas going, who are they talking to? Move the camera around, man, so we can see who they're talking to. So anyway...
Hold on.
Oh, go ahead.
First of all, Marina Shafir did her promo in... forgive me, I don't remember what language she...
I was guessing Hungarian. Would it be Hungarian?
Where is she from?
I don't fucking know. It's not my week to goddamn do her biography. But that's the thing is, between Pac's accent and they're talking in the scripted verbiage that fits whatever the fuck's going on with this thing. So it's riddles, but between Pac's accent, I was like, what the fuck is he saying? And then Claudio, the one I understood, but he's talking, he basically said, Wheeler useless. Why didn't you come with us? Or I know you can call me or whatever. The first thing we hear on their 5th anniversary is, where's Wheeler? And then Marina Shafir came up and spoke Hungarian, or was it Peruvian? I don't fucking know.
And the whole time Moxley has his back turned to the camera because obviously he's spending a lot of time rehearsing his lines.
Well,
he doesn't want us to see it. Yeah. He's
going over to his head, but also he's the star. So then he makes the grandiose turn in this art house project. And he tells Bryan Danielson that he's going to have the belt one way or the other, and there will be casualties. There will be casualties. He thinks he's goddamn
the viewers.
John Rambo.
They keep killing off the viewers. There will be casualties. Keep letting me do my shit.
They're dropping like flies. But basically, Moxley, who was some kind of quasi babyface with the whole BBC Combat Society, And they were quasi baby faces. Then he went away for a while to do who knows what or not do who knows what.
To wrestle for New Japan, I think.
Well, but no, he was gone for longer than that from AEW TV, like 2 months. But he comes back quoting the Australian indie movies and being the neo-Nazi character that people have alerted us to. Yeah, Neo-Moxie.
Moxley. My name is Moxley, not Moxley.
Whatever but the point is, he's talking about burying Bryan Danielson in his backyard on October the 12th. Danielson was part of the group. They never broke up until Moxley just came out and put a plastic bag over Danielson's head the other night, right? That's after Claudio had given him the upper flipper. So has he yet said, do we know? No, we don't know, because he hadn't said anything intelligible. Why do they suddenly hate this guy that was in their group for so long that they've now tried to kill him and he wants to bury him and there's going to be casualties along the way and the pay-per-view is next week and we don't even know why he's fucking mad? What the fuck sense does this make?
I don't think Claudio knows either. He's in the back trying to figure all this out. This is stuff that you come up with and the booker doesn't tell you no. And instead he feeds into it. The Moxley stuff is, we'll get to his actual wrestling a little bit later. But he may be my least favorite wrestler in the entire business.
Yeah.
And it's so ridiculous and over the top. And he comes back and every version of him is like the same. It's the same thing, but after watching a few more movies. And I don't, again, everyone's thinking this is leading to Shane McMahon. I'm sure we'll talk about that more later.
Well, if it is, then boy, howdy, would this be the worst ever angle or since the gobbledygooker leading up to a fucking payoff?
Well, we'll talk about their appearance again later on.
Anyway, and Nigel, by the way, was in for Taz, and they announced that Taz was in the building earlier, but was attacked by unknown assailants and was taken away to be treated and potentially has gone home to his doctors.
AKA, like me, he wanted to watch the Met game.
Well, I'm hoping that's what
that's
it was.
what that is, yeah.
But couldn't they just say he's on assignment? They have to make an angle about everything if this was, unless this was some kind of pre-planned. I don't.
Did you see the Hook promo later?
Well, yeah, kind of. I'll get you.
But it was because someone beat up his dad. Someone attacked Taz.
Well, yes.
So they say that. Here, they don't say why, but later they say he was attacked.
Well, yeah, but at some point throughout the fucking night, they said that he was attacked and Hook's going to get even, but who the all right, anyway.
Wouldn't it be funny if he shows up on Raw? No, it's not going to happen.
But God, all right. All right, the match that everybody's talking about, we're not going to give a blow-by-blow description of this. We don't have 36 hours. But Ricochet versus Osprey for the international title. And some people, as you would predict, are like, oh, this is so great. This is a 5-star, 6-star, whatever the fuck. And some people, as you would predict, are like, what the fuck are they doing? And you can't fault these guys as athletes. They are tremendous athletic performers, right? They can do all of those things. They can do too many things, as a matter of fact. But first of all, the whole idea of this match happening, how long has Ricochet been here? Has it been 3 weeks in AEW?
No, it's been longer than that. It's been at least 2 months.
Okay, I don't know. I'll split the difference. He's been here for 6 weeks.
Which pay-per-view did he debuted at one of the pay-per-views, right? Was it in England?
I think so, in the big multi-fucking gauntlet casino.
Match.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the last week of August. Here we are, first week of October, 6 weeks. He's already wrestling Osprey for the international title. they're both baby faces nominally because the crowd likes and cheers both of them, even though Osprey had a heel manager and mostly teams up with other heels. And they have a history between each other that none of this audience has any idea of, except the really hardcore ones that we talked about on the last show that watched the Danielson and McGuinness matches in Ring of Honor, that watched these fucking guys wherever they were having these gymnastics meets that they had on the indies. And instead of establishing Ricochet and then beginning to tell a story of a rivalry with Osprey, and then establishing more of a rivalry here leading to a match, they just say, okay, everybody traded the tapes 7 years ago from fucking, Beirut, wherever they were, so let's just go ahead and have the match now. They're both baby faces. There's no build or issue on this programming besides them coming face to face and being snide with each other last week or whatever. But because it's a banger of a match, they'll go ahead and give it to us now when it means nothing. And they announce it with, a week or two in advance, which is better than how they announced the world title match later on in the program. But do you see what I'm saying here? Is that what the fuck? Ricochet, the way you introduce anybody into a new company is bring them in, give them some wins on television, get them in a program with a guy that they can get the last word on, whether heel, babyface, whatever fits, and get over with, and then move into the main event mix. And instead, in 6 weeks, what are they doing here? That's my point, or one of my points.
I can't dispute anything you're saying. They rush a lot of things to have them happen. On the other hand, with AEW, if you're going to make it happen, you almost have to, because everyone always gets hurt. So if you have a chance, if you have a window, you kind of have to go for it.
Well, with the way that they're having these matches, I can understand why. Here's another thing. In the back, Don Fallis and Kyle Felcher are telling Osprey that they can't talk because they need to catch a plane. It's 8:02. The show just fucking started. The first match is going to the ring. Why did they come? Why are they there if they have to catch a fucking plane now? And there's our boy Take a Shit giving Osprey the dirty look, like, I don't like you. And again, who's the fucking heel? Why is Osprey the good-looking guy with the fucking good hair and the nice physique, and he's got a pleasant smile, even though the fucking garbledy fucking voice, but he's athletic and flashy. So he's just, I got to talk to you guys. Well, we don't, the top heel manager and some fucking blonde asshole that's in his group, we don't have time to talk to you now. We got to go catch a plane. And our other guy doesn't like you. And then, so everybody's confused. Who are the faces are teaming with heels. The faces have heel managers. The faces fight each other. The faces have rivalries that nobody has seen. They've just been told about. And apparently, due to the commentary, they've had 9 singles matches, and Osprey's ahead 5-4. Why did they have those matches? What is their issue? What, did one turn on one another, or they were best friends and somebody took somebody's girl? Whose side are we supposed to be on? Who's in the right? They're just, again, they're great athletes, and they could work a hell of a contest if they could contain themselves from doing all the gymnastics and the cartwheels and the ridiculous over-cooperation that takes it from a wrestling match to a floor routine. But Osprey is the guy. Ricochet can be very popular, but he's never going to be the guy in this company, especially if they're taking in $100 and something million a year. They better never make Ricochet the guy in this company.
Did you hear him on the mic?
Yes.
Oof.
But Osprey can be the guy in this company. So, but we need to please establish some goddamn logic as to who is mad at who and who is on whose side and why these things take place. We don't care about bangers. You're going to have the same audience, dwindling audience that you've got now if all you're doing is bangers, because after a while, just a bang for the sake of it without any emotion involved gets old. Haven't you found that, Brian?
I saw some of their matches. You know, the famous one where the clips are going around at the time where they did the opening spot where they both do the exact same thing on the other side of the ropes and then meet in the middle and then do the same thing on the other side of the ropes and do the same flip at the same time, ending in the same pose. And there are people who love that stuff and they don't understand why we don't. Well, they did that stuff here and it wasn't as good as it was years ago.
Well, yeah, because they're fucking 7 or 8 years older or whatever.
And it's almost like a step back for Osprey in a sense, because, you know, he needs to work on he can't just do that forever. And they did that here. It was filled with spots that drive me crazy. But I guess because there's no feud and there's no problems between the two, just out of the friendship of competing against each other, it makes sense when the one guy turns around while the other guy's facing him still and lifts his hands in the air and gears
points
up. Yeah, like Kenny does, like Kenny Omega does. Osprey was doing that shit. So
I would kick the guy from behind in between the legs right in the fucking balls.
It looks ultra cooperative to people who are not wrestling fans. And the wrestling fans, it's split amongst people who think it looks ultra cooperative and not what we want in even our high-flying matches, and people who think it's the greatest thing ever. But again, you look at the crowds they get and you look at the reactions these bangers are getting. They have bangers with no emotion. And whether it was this, and it wasn't as bad here as it was later in the show, especially during that Danielson match, when the announcers have to start doing their golf commentary because the crowd is not making any noise whatsoever, there's a problem in what you're doing. No one has any passion or investment in anything you're doing. And they had this match, and
what are they going to break next in terms of furniture or whatever is what they're waiting on, or what flip is going to be.
There was no reason for this match
next.
Unless you're a fan who is expecting and wanting, you know, a high-flying match. There's nothing to want in this.
And I'm not saying you shouldn't have main event style matches on television anywhere, but I'm saying why take Osprey to 20 fucking minutes or however long this was to the limit and do everything and make him just one of the miscellaneous mid-card spot monkeys that, you know, populates everywhere instead of focusing on him as either the guy or your next guy or whatever the fuck. And as I said, you know, he's got a nice body, decent looking, nice hair, expressive face, horrible voice, but he needs a producer badly to teach him how to get over in America, which he would have gotten in the WWE, and he'd be in front of a lot more people, but I don't know whether they would give him as much money in the schedule that he's got now, but his matches would be better because you could use the athleticism. I mean, in this match, he did 10 things that could be an angle that either could be done to him or he could do to somebody else that would carry you for a goddamn 6 months or a year on a professional television program. And they just pop up and continue to do shit. They did everything. Nobody could beat anybody with anything. And at one point, again, the psychology, because there is none, because they've been in Japan and they've been in England. Ricochet obviously chafed against the goddamn training that he got because he knew he was going to get a bunch of money to do his flippy shit while he still can with his friends here, because he's right back to doing it. But at one point, Osprey was the way he was working heel. He had Ricochet down and he was taunting him and he was bullying him. And Ricochet was selling. And then Osprey did a flip off the top where he got a Hurricane Rana, but he flipped and landed on his feet, and the crowd gave him a standing ovation. So now they're cheering the guy that was being the heel. But then 30 seconds later, he's flipping Ricochet the fucking double bird like, fuck you, so is he a heel again? And then the finish they did two finishes. But Osprey gave Ricochet the reverse Hurricane Rana, dropped him right on his feet, and Ricochet popped up without selling it and gave Osprey a reverse Hurricane Rana. And he popped up and they basically just kept jumping up and doing the same move to each other without selling it. And then Osprey stood up and gave Ricochet the elbow and then fell on top of him where they were both down, except Ricochet had to kind of put his hand over the top of Osprey's neck. And the referee counted both men down and it was a draw. Don't worry, that's not the end of it. But do you see what I'm saying? Why would you do that move and then just stand up and then just hop up in the air and give the same move to the other guy and drop him on his head and have him not sell it? Isn't that just telling everybody everything we're doing is complete bullshit?
See, what they do is impressive, but the idea that you jump up, there's a lot of just jumping up and doing something and then falling back down. Because I guess we're supposed to believe that you get a burst of energy that propels you to do a RKO on the apron or whatever the fuck happened here.
Every time somebody in a riot gets hit in the head with a goddamn baseball bat, that suddenly for the next 10 seconds they can whip anybody, is what you're saying.
It's less than 10 seconds. It's seemingly no matter what move is done to you, if you have the, I don't know what, the fighting spirit, whatever it is, you have 3 seconds to jump up and do something.
It sounds like they've had plenty of spirits. I don't know if they're fighting any of them. So then, of course, Tony Khan, by mental telepathy, sends Smiley Roberts, the ring announcer, the message that this match will continue. And I'm like, God damn it. And they get up and start trading forearms in the middle of the ring. But 30 seconds later, so they did a double pin finish and a restart, and 30 seconds later, Take a Shit jumps in and just starts beating up both of them. And it's a double disqualification, no contest or whatever. And he gave Osprey a weird looking knee that looked like maybe somebody wasn't ready for something, or it looked different than what they envisioned it might have looked like. I don't know what happened. And then he just rolled out and got the title belt. And what belt was on the line in this thing? There's so many of them I've forgotten.
This was the international?
Yes, international.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, he got that belt and stood over both of them. Analyze that finish for me, great Brian Last.
Well, Christopher Daniels was in some pre-tapes later on. I guess they didn't fly him in, because why would you do the Tony Khan has announced this from the back that he's just going with it instead of having like the moment?
Well, because no, this is Tony's fucking. He wanted to make sure that everybody knew that he was saving this match. The match they all wanted to see, because it was going to be a banger, because they had one in a fucking hockey building in England 7 years ago. He wanted to make sure he was the one known for saving it. That's my opinion.
They did impressive stuff and the people were into them, but you get a lot of these moments of silence. And again, you're having matches just to have matches. The only reason for them to wrestle is that they wrestled each other in front of a pretty small, all things considered, audience 8 years ago or whatever. Before Ricochet was in WWE. Before Osprey had muscle. Like a long time ago. And they did the same moves that they did here. But in between those moves, it's just you sit there and you wait for the next move. I thought this entire show, but here, and especially in the Danielson-Okada match, watching the fans watch the wrestling while reacting to nothing. And then all of a sudden a channel breakout like, this is awesome. And you're like, oh, where's that coming from? And then it goes away and everyone's still sitting there back into dead silence. There's no emotion. There's no, it's not, I hate Ricochet for any reason or I hate Will Osprey for any reason. It's no, let's just have a match where we're going to do a bunch of moves. So as a fan, you go into it knowing, oh, they're just going to have a match where they do a bunch of moves and kick out of everything.
And see, that's the problem that I have is that it just devalues everything for people who are trying to evoke some emotion and get over and do this stuff the right way when they're just out there playing video game characters and none of this hurts. They don't even sell the shit that really hurts enough that you would somewhat visibly sell it, for fuck's sake. But it's impossible for, it's impossible to follow some of this stuff because what are you going to do then? That's why, unfortunately, they're in the position they're in, is that they've matriculated a pretty big section of the audience they had when they started, because how do you follow what they've already done? They've set people on fire and blown them up in these video game gymnastics bullshit matches where nothing can hurt anybody. Then they don't believe when they really do something to one of the few people on the roster they care about. Then it is like, well, that was all. All they did was double pile drive him off the top rope through tables on the floor. Well, the girls did that last week. It just nullifies impact of anything, which makes all these people get hurt more often because they got to do more shit for these fucking people that expect if you're not crashing through furniture every 30 seconds, it's not a banger. Anyway.
On the bright side, at least it looks like Tony's going to do something with Takeshita.
Well, now we think maybe it looks like it. Let's see if it lasts 3 weeks. It doesn't even deserve its own review, but Mercedes Mone was introduced a highlight video of Dynamite on the occasion of the 5th anniversary, the greatest moments, and it was all her. And I just made the observation that she is the first personality that I can think of in wrestling that is totally unlikable, but not necessarily in a heel way, but just even pockets. I hate his gimmick. It's fake and phony and bullshit, but he doesn't come off like he thinks that he is the goddamn biggest superstar in the world and still have a goddamn rotten fucking phony gimmick. She does. But is that... It's the classic heel characteristic, but the problem is you don't want to see anything she does because it's all so bad. So is this brilliant heel work or shitty heel work?
It's shitty wrestling work. Because it's so fake. It's fake past what's acceptable for wrestling fake. The way she talks, it's like, every promo is a dressing room mirror promo. She's doing it to herself in the mirror. The way she talks...
Now, wait a minute.
Stop it. Stop it. The way she talks, what she says...
The way she wears her hair.
Outside of the WWE ecosystem, and even that has kind of moved on from a lot of what she did when she was successful there. I'm sure she would still be over, I'm not saying that, but... She's doing a Vince McMahon-style women's wrestling character in terms of the hokiness and the gimmickiness of it, and it's not connecting with AEW fans.
Though this shit wouldn't connect on WWE television either. This wouldn't connect with anything, but nevertheless.
It's really bad. Like, it's cringy bad. You watch her, and it's like, it's cringy bad. These promos. Camille just stands there.
But here, well, yeah, sooner or later she'll get to do something. But also, you see the quotes from Mercedes on, that she does interviews or on social media or whatever, where she speaks like that she has been some savior of women's wrestling and some trailblazer, and that she is able to do more now. It just talks like she's goddamn Madonna or what, and it's fucking ludicrous. Don't they hear the crickets, or are they drowned out by the piped-in CEO and the music?
Give her credit, because there have been crickets. No one reacts. People don't like her. People boo her. And she still has the confidence to go out there and go, I'm your CEO.
Yeah.
Man, people don't give a fuck what you are.
Yeah, maybe conniving, egotistical, and overpushed.
I'll say it here, and I think it can apply to AEW more than WWE, because WWE has some really talented stars in the women's division. But how much more successful would AEW be, just ratings alone, if they didn't have a women's division? We know what drives off the viewers. We know what segments do that. Again, why do it if, why? Just why?
Yeah. You know what they did next? Renee Moxley Good is standing in the back with the Gun Boys, and they said 3 words, and Hangnail Page came in the back door and beat them both up with a chair. And that was it.
Did you see the first chair shot? It looks like he actually didn't hit him with the chair. He hit him with like his forearm.
Well, yeah, because he was coming in, instead of whacking him with it, he was coming in with the edge of it and just body checked him and, had the chair in his hands. But I mean, still, why can't these guys at least even get a chance to speak before somebody just beats the piss out of them and leaves them laying there and they get no retribution? In every segment, every time they're backstage, somebody will talk for 5 words and then get the shit kicked out of them, to the point where it's just ridiculous now and nobody cares, because it happens constantly. It's not out of the ordinary.
Here's the guns that you haven't seen on this show in weeks. And there go the guns.
And there go the guns. Okay, you mentioned segments that drive the viewers off. The Learning Tree with Chris Jericho, with Big Bill and Brian Keith and Mark Briscoe and Kyle O'Reilly and Rocky Romero and our little puppy Pockets. I just couldn't. And I saw, as I was fast forwarding, that Mark Briscoe was cutting a promo on Jericho, but the opportunity for Mark has been wasted, and this is so bad, and Jericho's disingenuous. Are you going to crucify me here because I didn't fucking watch this thing?
How could you not watch this?
Because it was rotten.
You didn't see a second of it. You went right past it.
As soon as I saw that it was Chris Jericho, I just wasn't in the fucking mood. I don't know how to apologize any further.
All right.
What happened?
I'm not going to tell you.
Well, all right, then I don't care. But I did watch Darby Allen in the woods on a bunch of junk cars at night wearing a pink furry housecoat, telling a story about 3 guys bullying him and spitting on him on a bus. And one of them had a switchblade, but he jumped him anyway. And I swear to God, he said, and it felt good that I did something about it. I was waiting for him to say, goddamn, when I got out of the hospital, after he stabbed me 17 times, I said, but either that or then we all got sent to the principal's office. But Darby does a good promo, especially if you're a young person who can overlook that he's an idiot and, with himself physically, and you can find some admiration in the homelessness and etc. I see that young people are a lot more accepting of people being fucking homeless than my generation. And then talking about it on television, at least. I don't know. It might be something you have to experience. I'm not sure it's something you need to brag about years later. But he issued an open challenge for the pay-per-view. I'll fight anybody. And then he beat up a car with a rock. I go back and forth on Darby Allen, whether I think you dumb, stupid son of a bitch, if you were smarter and you could apply your talents and eliminate your stupidity, you wouldn't be a crippled 35-year-old. You'd still be making a lot of money. But then other times I think, oh, fuck it, let him goddamn knock his head off. What'd you think about this promo?
It was an interesting promo, an interesting story about people spitting at him. And he just got his ass kicked by Moxley. Now he just has an open challenge to anybody.
As long as they don't spit on him, because that's going to piss him off. That would be great if whoever he wrestles, they do the spot where they sit him down in front of him and they start spitting on top of his head. All right. Juice Robinson is back, ladies and gentlemen. And apparently he's a babyface now, I guess, I think. And I'm excited. And he's going to wrestle Hangnail Page. I'm still excited because at least Juice is back, right? Something about, we both like him, Brian. You're a fan. The way he talks, the way he looks, the way he wears his hair, whatever. So, okay, maybe let's see a good match here. We got Juice. It's a jump start in the entrance. Juice Robinson pulls out a belt and starts whipping Page. Page takes it away from him and whips him. So now, I'm like, wait a minute, that's backwards. If Juice is the babyface. And then they fight into the arena. Page pulls several sections of railing loose and uses it on Juice. He pulls a table up, but they get misdirected from the table. They fight, in quotation marks, they fight up the stairs into the stands, throw some soft drinks in each other's faces, come back down the same way. Juice hits Page with some popcorn. They roll into the ring. And Aubrey Ed rings the bell to start the match, and they go to break. So one guy that I'd like to see have a match on this show, and this is what they do to it, and they're still doing this thing where, okay, they can come out, they can start fighting anywhere in the building, they can go 15, 20 minutes with sledgehammers. No matter what happens, if they get in the ring, then we'll ring the bell. This is a rule that they have invented. That has never been a thing in wrestling before. So at that point, I said, well, fuck, now it's ruined for me, and I just got to fucking watch Hangnail, so I skipped ahead another 10 minutes. 10 minutes after they
This was long. This was long. This felt really long. Yes,
after that whole thing, 10 minutes. And finally, Page mule kicked our boy Juice in the balls and buckshot lariated him 1, 2, 3. Now there's more to come, but continue your thought on that match.
There's not much more I could say. Juice Robinson looked good. The little bits I watched, but it went a long time and the pace of it was just deadly and the crowd went silent. And so did I. So,
well, but more noise was made at the end.
It went way too long. How does it benefit anyone involved in this that it went that long? Whatever.
Well, they had an overrun. They snuck a 2.5-hour show in on us this time. So the point is, buckshot lariat 1, 2, 3. Well, the heel wins. But again, the heel, goddamn, is there ever a match here without goddamn afterbirth? Page now is going to hang Juice Robinson, grabs his rope and throws him over the top rope with the rope around his neck, and here comes Light Switch Jay White, and he rolls in and beats up Hangnail Page, and they fight out into the arena, and he runs Page through the table that they had set up in the match with Juice a while ago. So that was that.
You excited for the return of Jay White?
No. I wasn't excited for the debut of Jay White and everything else in between. Remember when he was doing those 20-minute fucking promos?
See, that's what I'm waiting for. Next week when we get the promo, I'm assuming it'll be next week. It'll be more of the, oh, I am the greatest the man who is number one. Like just all talking about himself nonstop in that weird tone. Yeah.
Poor Juice can't get a break, can't get away from these people. And then Renee Moxley Good with Jungle Jack off in his Chester the Molester van. Are we expected to believe that he's driving that coast to coast and top to bottom, north to south, all across the country? Who is driving that? Are they putting the van on a truck, or has somebody got to drive that ugly, uncomfortable, fucking painted over bread truck to every city they go to? Because that's awful big to put on a fucking flatbed.
Especially for Jack Perry, who's just not doing it.
Well, yeah, why does he have to have this? This is an example of, he said it would be cool if I had this ugly van. And Tony Khan is spending a fortune so that this little idiot can pull up in an ugly van every week on TV for 10 seconds. So he walked down into the shot, and Shapoopy came up to him and had his phone translator, and his phone challenged Jungle Jack off to a pay-per-view match. And then he accepted and then ran back in behind the guy and ran his head into the van. Should he be running Shapoopy's head into a van with his history of brain surgeries?
The only bigger question, and why is Jack Perry getting this push that isn't really working out too well, is why would they book a feud with Shibata? Or is this just for the Wrestle Dream pay-per-view in a week?
Well, yes, because this is everybody's dream to see a guy without a brain wrestle a guy with brain damage.
Yeah, not good.
Speaking of both, brain damage or no brain, Bryan Danielson was in the back saying, "Fuck Jon Moxley." Of course, they bleeped it, and I was like, amen to that. But he cuts a promo on Moxley, but we still don't have any insight as to why Moxley did what he did. And then Danielson promoted Cody for the main event tonight. He's a great promo when he's fired up, but again, even worse with Danielson and Cody in the main event is with, they announced it on Twitter 5 days ago or whatever, but another banger, but this time with a guy that's too banged up to bang. We'll get there. But anyway, did you watch Britt Baker versus Serena Deeb?
A little bit. It's the first time we've seen Britt Baker since, I think, Wembley. It's her hometown, so I guess she has to be there. Serena Deeb, the little bits I watched looked really good. Serena Deeb looked really good.
Serena can work. She's a Rip Rogers disciple. She can work. But of course,
you can believe in her in the ring,
Yes. And Britt Baker, the hometown girl, came out with the Pittsburgh towel on her back or whatever that was, and she won with the mandible claw. And then Serena gets heat on her every fucking match. Serena just gets back on her, and then here comes Queen Waiata and makes the save, and then everybody left. But did you see what somebody put out on Twitter, like from wrestling source of reporting or .com or some, maybe even a completely phony site? It had to be a made-up deal, but the reason for Britt Baker being suspended, did you see this?
I don't know what you're talking about, no.
I saw that one person tweeted it. It was a made-up, mocked-up news headline, Britt Baker suspended. They said the reason because she was using nitrous oxide in the locker room, and that she was suspended for. Hey,
she would have been the most popular person in the locker room.
Yeah, but
I'd be calling her up right now.
But again, because she's a dentist, she was able to get. Obviously, we are not saying that was in any way truthful. I thought it was funny and it's bullshit. But can you imagine that? Nitrous oxide, for one thing, is not a performance-enhancing drug. but it's not necessarily something you'd be sitting around a locker room doing before you go out to work either.
Although the famous story my dad's friends always said is that backstage, I think at the Nassau Coliseum, he said to Jerry Garcia one time, "Hey, Jerry, if your captain trips, why are we doing nitrous oxide?" Jerry didn't have an answer. Or if he did, I don't know what it is.
But anyway.
Her and Dr. Lano, I'm telling you, that's the big thing. Next time they go to the West Coast, they should have Lano come out as her manager for one night. And then he can do what he did at the Gordon Kazar show, get on the mic and just do running commentary of the match.
Yes, and he could have a big tank of nitrous oxide on his back.
Isn't there one already?
Yeah. So then, continuing in the female genre, Renee Moxley-Good was in the back with Maria May, and Willow came in, and they argued, and they fought, and they got pulled apart. It's the same every segment. Is just it's like these kids have seen highlights of wrestling from years gone by and think that that's all that they ever did. And then,
well, who's there to coach him? Pepper Day?
A bunch of people that they aren't listening to that have been there in the past. I don't think Arn Anderson told them or taught them a lot of these things.
He's not there.
He ain't there. Cody wasn't probably teaching him a lot of things.
He's not
like
there
that.
either.
He's not there. William Regal probably would. Well, he's not there.
I don't know. Yeah, he's not there. He wanted to be closer to home.
I'm getting closer to my home.
The smartest guy in history. He went to AEW. He's like, I've made a huge mistake. What will I do to get out of this mistake? I will find a way out of this mistake.
I will polite my way in an English fashion out of this mistake. He polited himself right out of the company. Private Party beat two fat guys. Did you see the botched double team where the guy that can jump actually for the first time ever couldn't jump and missed the fucking guy and he dove off anyway? And then they're cutting a promo in the ring. They want to be the tag team champions and they call out the Hardley Boys. Let's do this thing right now. And then the Hardley Boys, of course, the spotlight on it. They are more and more with every passing week. Maddie and Nikki are like the South Park episode where the kids created their own wrestling federation, the WTF. They're sitting in...
That's their whole life.
Yeah, they're sitting in a spotlight and as they're opened on, and then they start talking their way to the ring and they tease a match, and then but we're on limited dates because they got to be inside. And then suddenly in the ring, Jungle Jackoff jumps Private Party, and then the Buckaroos roll in and start getting on them. But then music plays, and here comes Shapoopy. And all three of the heels bail because Shapoopy ran in, and the fans are sitting there like, what the fuck? And then Daniels comes out and makes a 6-man tag for Rampage. So the show that's not even going to exist any longer, that nobody watches to begin with, is dominating the promotional time on this television show when they're a week away from a pay-per-view.
Did you see Jack Perry's, I don't know if they were supposed to be punches. I don't know if they were supposed to be punches and they looked like forearms or if they were forearms that looked like shit. I'm not sure what it was, but...
Where he just was waving his arm in the general direction of the fellow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what they do now. And to be honest and be fair, they do it in the WWE too. They just, these guys cover up in a ball and somebody on top of them just waves their arm potentially with a closed fist somewhere in the area of their head and upper body. It's fucking ridiculous. I've never seen sloppiness like this. And we didn't have high definition television. So it's even worse now. That's why I talk about all these guys covering up. If you're all covered up and you're blocking and you got your hands over your face, then there is no target, and anything that's thrown at you looks like shit. If the guy holds you down and pins your arm and throws an unobstructed punch to the face, it's better than 10 windmills. And it gets the point across. I'm sorry, I digressed.
All episode, they were showing highlights of 5 years of Dynamite, the biggest moments, and they showed Private Party defeating the Young Bucks. I forget what they said. It was either episode 2 or episode 3, like early on, 5 years ago. They're revisiting their feud now, 5 years later. The Bucks don't matter. The Bucks just don't matter.
The Bucks don't matter, and Private Party's not as over as they were then.
Yeah, the only thing that can help Private Party right now is leaving AEW and hoping WWE would be looking at them. Again, back to this tag team division, this awful tag team division. They booked it into the ground, even with some talent. And again, the Bucks, they get that go-home heat reaction from a lot of people as soon as they come out. More and more of the AEW fans, too. It's not about bangers. It's about more than that.
But it doesn't have to be now, because along with Tony's dad's bottomless pocket, they're getting paid to just do what they're doing. So there's no incentive to get better. That's the problem now, is they've been somewhat validated. There's no incentive to get better because they're guaranteed whatever. I mean, Tony will still spend more money than they take in somehow, but they're guaranteed a shitload of money to just do whatever the fuck they're doing.
And the crowds are getting smaller and smaller. The crowds are, going to be where they were when they were on the indies, when they were main eventing for Ring of Honor with Sinclair money behind them. And they had plenty of time to they had a lot of say in everything they've done. They had plenty of time to try to do anything to drum up interest in anything. And instead they were left to do their best ideas and look at the state of the tag team division, look at the state of AEW they're making it about 5 years ago, we started this thing. There'd be no AEW without us. AEW would be better without you.
Yes.
Look at the landscape.
I'm sorry, but I have a feeling that Cody would have probably pushed this thing through even if there weren't any buckaroos around. We've seen who the go-getter is, and he went and got it. But anyway, one more Renee Moxley good with MVP, who started speaking, and Nana came in pissed off and said, I used to be a wrestler, at least they're letting him say something. But then MVP told Nana, you're going to have to deal with the complaint department. And the camera widens out, and there's Shelton Benjamin standing behind Nana. Again, what did he goddamn beamed in on the, beam me up, Scotty. Nana wouldn't have seen Shelton Benjamin standing anywhere around there. But again, I love Shelton, and I'm glad Shelton is making, I'm sure, a lot of money, and we might be able to see him on television every once in a while. But this is the way that you debut him, in a fucking pre-tape late in the show where the camera widens out and he's standing there. Is that a big fucking reveal? And then Shelton drank Nana's coffee and stole his coffee cup. And that was it. I'm glad they're putting the Hurt Business together, but don't we need to make it a little grander than, and here's another backstage segment where we'll introduce a guy that's been a star in the business for 20 years.
Well, that's the thing. Shouldn't any of these segments be in front of the live crowd? And if you say Shelton Benjamin couldn't be there this night because, for whatever reason, so they had to pre-tape it, then do it another week when he could be there.
Do it next week.
Yeah.
Do it next week. Where are they pre-taping these fucking things anyway? God damn it.
Well, Jim, with all the buzz about the Hurt Business being now on TV, reuniting in AEW, they all gigantic amongst the smaller wrestlers there. You may want to get on the phone and call somebody and say, hey, MVP is back on TV. They're going to be in the MVP arena at some point. MVP is at the MVP. The Hurt Business is on TV. And I got a good phone plan with Mint Mobile.
Well, you've said it all. No, I'll tell you what, the phone lines were burning up, the party lines, people were listening in. One ringy-dingy, two ringy-dingy, everybody saying MVP is in AEW, and Shelton Benjamin is back with MVP, and Bobby Lashley can't be far behind. They were all burning up the phone lines, but it didn't cost people a lot of money because they had the premium wireless plan from Mint Mobile starting at $15 a month. And I'll tell you what, that you can, as a matter of fact, you can get 3 months for only $45. That's even cheaper than $15 a month or thereabouts, because Mint Mobile, see, they're cutting through all the middleman and they're giving you proper service. You know, Ryan Reynolds started this thing, you know. I saw him the other day up on top of a telephone pole. He was stringing wires himself.
No, that's not how this works at all.
See, no, they're eliminating a lot of the overhead by doing a lot of the work themselves. They're entrepreneurial Americans.
Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah, he was up there, he was stringing line. He was climbing that pole like he'd been working for the telephone company for 25 years. You should have seen him. And that's the way that they can pass the savings on to the consumer. Oh, yeah, he's out there, he's working early in the morning, works the early shift, 6 to 3. So that way he's got the evenings off to make movies and TV shows. But folks, if you want to switch your high-priced plan that you've got on your telephone where they're just raking you over the coals, over to Mint Mobile, it's easy. Like we said, $15 a month when you get the 3-month plan. And it comes with high-speed data, unlimited talk and text, and the nation's largest 5G network. Ryan put 3 of those G's in himself. You can keep your own phone. You can keep your own phone number. You can keep your hands in your pockets and your ideas to yourself too there, fella. But you can ditch the overpriced wireless that you might have now with Mint Mobile's deal. 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. And Brian, of course, I was erroneous when I earlier said that also the additional business they had started was Mobile Mint, where they had a truck outfitted with
this is
minting equipment.
You did say this.
And they'd come to your home and they would mint you your own money.
Ridiculous.
And, well, unfortunately, I didn't get the updated memo because that idea, that concept didn't get out of development because it was not clinically validated when they did the clinic. So now what they've got is Mobile Mint, where they have a truck outfitted with every kind of mint. You got breath mints and peppermints. If you want some peppermint schnapps, they got that. Anything with some mintiness to it. The green stuff that you mush up and put down on the bottom of the Moscow mules, all kinds of mint, and they drive that truck around to your neighborhood, delivering mints in a mobile fashion.
Why now? Why? No, they don't. But they have great phone plans. There's no trucks.
You sound like one of the Bowery Boys. Well, folks, right now, if you want to save some money and have your breath be minty fresh, go to mintmobile.com. No, David Gorsey. Mintmobile.com.
Sunshine Sammy?
/JCE. What was his father's name?
Gorsey's father's name?
Yeah,
he was in a bunch of movies.
He became the Louis Sweet Shop owner.
Yeah.
I
don't remember his
Mint
name. Mobile.
They're still here. Mintmobile.com /JCE. You can cut your wireless phone bill to $15 a month when you get the new 3-month premium wireless plan. Mintmobile.com /JCE. And of course, they don't trust you, so a $45 upfront payment is required, which is equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on the first 3-month plan only. Don't try any of your shenanigans. Speed slower above 40 GB on the unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for all the details and ask for some peppermint schnapps.
Well, see all the details and use the promo code with Mint Mobile.
Yes.
And now back to Dynamite.
Well, now it's time for the main event, isn't it? We've been waiting a long time. As a matter of fact, the bell for the main event to start rang at 6 minutes till 10 o'clock. They said, we've got a significant overrun for you tonight. We've already gone through it. Why can't they just schedule the shit? I mean, even cousin Brian Alvarez is getting frustrated because he's got the apparatus that you can't easily set, and he's going out of his mind trying to keep up with these things.
Well, the other thing is, except for the rare week, like last week, I think, with Moxley versus Darby, it loses viewers. So if you're doing something that doesn't benefit The programs, the matches, the feuds, the viewership goes away. You put main event stuff at the end of the show, no one sees it. There's no reason for it, yet they doubled, tripled down on it. 30 minutes this week.
Well, and at least, we'll get to that in a second, but it was the world title versus the, the Intercontinental title. No, the international title is Osprey.
Continental.
Okay, WWE has the Intercontinental title, AEW has the international title and the Continental title. So, am I wrong? Did they not just announce this on Twitter like about 4 or 5 days before the show?
I saw this on Twitter because MJF retweeted it, and then I got retweeted, people copied it and quoted it to us, where he couldn't understand the stipulation. That was the first time I heard of the match or the stipulation.
Well, it was a double title match. The world title was on the line versus the Continental title, but the Continental title was only on the line for the first 20 minutes of the match. Now, again, we know that Tony has liked to watch old wrestling tapes, and there's some of the other guys that go back and they watch, but they don't get the old wrestling. The deal they were doing here originated, I believe, in the Carolinas territory. It's, I think, although you may be able to correct me because other territories may have done this. But the deal was in the Mid-Atlantic territory, the television title had a time limit of 20 minutes on championship matches. If you were the TV champion and you defended the title on TV, it was a 20-minute time limit because it's an hour fucking program in total. And so that was more befitting a television match, right? So then, if let's say Ricky Steamboat is the Mid-Atlantic TV champion and he's in a program against his ex-tag team partner, number one Paul Jones, who's the U.S. champion, then if they had a match in the arenas, the TV, or even if the other guy wasn't a champion and just the TV champion had a match, a special arena match, house show match where there was some issue, the TV title would be on the line for the first 20 minutes only in a match with an hour time limit or whatever the case, because that was the time limit of all TV title matches. So it made sense. And that way they could work the deal where the TV champion got beat in the house show match, but it took 23 minutes. So he would still be the TV champion. And if it'd been on television, he wouldn't have been beaten, etc. Simple but effective. But there's no reason for the Continental title to be on the line for the first 20 minutes only, because they have not established that the time limit for every Continental title match is 20 minutes. So he just did a stipulation that he's heard of in the past without bothering to figure out why the fuck that it was done that way to begin with. Did I lose anybody or did I explain that properly?
I think you explained it as good as you can.
So, I mean, there was that's where it was done and why it was done and why it made sense to do it there. But it didn't make sense to do it here. He just wanted to have these guys wrestle and be able to have a winner without switching a belt. So, we already know that it's going over 20 minutes due to the stipulation. They start at 6 minutes till. And again, Danielson is a very talented guy. And he gets more than most people out of other people. But this fucking Japanese certified public accountant, he is rotten. He is broken down. No, this went forever. At the top of 10 o'clock, they were in break. So anybody was switching over would see picture in picture at best. And then on my local cable, it went to full commercial. And then they went on and on. And by 10:15 p.m., the Continental title was off the line. And at that point, Cody gave Danielson a tombstone pile driver on a chair on the floor.
No, he didn't.
What?
If you watched it, his head didn't come anywhere near the chair, and the camera was right on it, so you couldn't miss it.
Okay, but the point being, it wasn't for lack of trying. All of his shit looks bad, but it was a tombstone pile driver on a chair on the floor for a break spot. To where by the time the 3-minute break was over with, the guy that had to retire because of concussions and needs neck surgery, that just got tombstone pile driven on a chair on the floor, was back beating the shit out of the other guy. And that was 26 minutes into this fucking thing. So, I mean, did you see? I couldn't watch all of it. I was trying to see because they were laying around for so long, but was there anything, again, I've tried to watch that the multi-million-dollar acquisition of Kazuchika Okada, he moves like a ruptured moose. Anything? Well, did you see anything?
I hated this match. And quite frankly, it's not just Okada. Bryan Danielson has had some really great matches, but he also wrestles a really boring, slow-paced, for no logical reason style. And even when you want to say he's too hurt to throw the kick, so he has to take 5 seconds to do it, everything took forever. And then they were on the floor for forever, and the referee did nothing. He would check on them. And the crowd was dead, and the crowd was dead, and the crowd was dead.
Need me to bring you anything?
And the crowd was dead. I hated this match. I thought it was terrible. Okada has not looked good in AEW. This was the worst of Danielson in my eyes. Just a slow match with the things that you see in every other match, but it took forever to me. It was a long match that did not serve anyone's best interest being a long match.
Well, and then, as I mentioned, after the tombstone pile drivers and the other type of things, Danielson won with a backslide. And then here comes the plumber and his group of pipe fitters. And I don't know. Moxley said a bunch of shit to him that not just me, but nobody understands what he's talking about. I assume there's going to be some grand reveal of what the fuck his deal is or what's going on here. But he kept saying, it's not about me. I wish it wasn't about you. Apparently this is all about you. But it's not about me. I didn't want this. And whatever the fuck, but they're holding Danielson down while Moxley is verbally doing whatever, chastising him. And they're going to fuck him up as the threat. And then here comes our boy Wheeler. Wheeler, useless, hits the ring with a hammer in his hand, and all 4 of them bailed. And I mean, this is, again, well, hold on, all 4 of them bailed. And yes, it's a guy with a hammer, but he's the size of a 12-year-old with a hammer. But then Moxley just gets back in the ring and is standing there looking at him. And there's Wheeler with the hammer. He's holding it, and he's exhibiting the excitement of a cabbage as he is conflicted. And Moxley just standing there, not even really daring him, just staring at him. And he won't do anything. And he's holding the hammer, and he's looking at the hammer like, should I hit this guy with the hammer? And then finally,
he didn't sell for a hammer.
No, Moxley's just standing there, but the other guy is not making any motion like he's going to hit him. Why did he bring the fucking hammer in there if he wasn't prepared to hit some of these motherfuckers with a hammer?
He chased the 4 of them out of the ring with the hammer, and they just watched as Moxley walked right back into the ring.
And then why are we supposed to support this babyface that will let the heel just stand there while the babyface has a hammer in his hand and is kowtowed into immobility and won't do anything because the heel is so fearsome standing there. And then finally Danielson had to tackle Moxley. And then Claudio glommed Wheeler, and he dropped the hammer. So now they've neutralized Wheeler. They're back on fucking Danielson. But then the plumber gets out, and Marina Schaefer, because she's his bodyguard, rolls out with him. And so it's a four-way with Danielson and Wheeler against Pac and Claudio. And then the heels bail out. And then I thought, thank God that's over. And then Wheeler gets the microphone. And he says in that whiny, pleading, plaintive voice, I'm sick and tired of you two treating me like a child. And then my DVR froze because I recorded the program after AEW Dynamite, and these son of a bitches ran over the fucking overrun. But basically, he's tired of them treating him like a child, even though he's the size of one. And Brian, did you hear anything after? Did you tape 2 programs after Dynamite so you could see everything?
I don't know why, but I got the hour after Dynamite recorded on my DVR. And him and Danielson are going to team up and challenge the not Blackpool. I don't know what they are. They don't have a name. They do their promos and riddles. It was pointed out here, and it's true. You know, this is never about me. Okay, what's it about? just tell me now. You got me down. Your friends are holding me. Why wait? Why delay this any longer?
Well, just say it, man. Just say it.
To my earlier question, because enough people keep talking about it, we're going to keep asking about it. If this is an angle to bring Shane McMahon to AEW, is this the way you would do it?
Good. What? No, how did they're really going through massive leaps and bounds of twisted logic to try to get this. What the fuck would Shane McMahon, why would he deal with this group of half-over misfits and this fucking bald-headed dimwit that runs the thing if he was going to come in and try to take over AEW? Because that would be the only reason to come in and do anything is try to take over AEW. Wouldn't you be up at the upper echelon? And the first thing that would happen is Don Fallis's guys would be signed away and some off-screen entity was assembling people that hadn't been together before into some group for some nefarious purpose, but they'd all be main event guys. And they might even be asking, Why am I being asked, I'm being sent money and asked to fucking talk to you about teaming up to one of their enemies? Why the fuck is this? Or some shit, but not just this idiot coming in and speaking in riddles about bad independent movies from foreign countries.
Here's the problem. There's now people expecting Shane McMahon. So let's say it's not Shane McMahon. Who's this mystical leader that Jon Moxley's talking about?
Well, it's not that. Is he even talking about a mystical leader? When he says it's not about me, I wanted something bigger. Is he talking about people let him down, but let the concept down, let the thing that they had planned down, and now he has to get even? Danielson wasn't on board. Why are they mad at Danielson? Didn't Shane McMahon say, hey, Brian, you're in the group. I'd like you to come aboard too? What sense does any of this make?
What about Dabo Kato?
He would show up ahead of the Shane as the advance guard.
See, there's the biggest argument for Shane being involved with this. Wasn't Shane the mastermind of Raw Underground?
Yes.
Come on. It's the same thing. Moxley is the walking embodiment of Raw Underground.
Well, if anybody will put Moxley underground, I will support it.
Maybe it'll be Dabo Kato. See, that's all when I think of Raw Underground, I just think of the look of it. I don't remember anyone doing anything other than Shane kind of jumping around, yelling, Dabo Kato, Dabo
Yes,
Kato.
yes, and boom, and boy, the booyah. Hey, remember the booyah thing? When they were trying to make Shane an announcer, remember this was late 98, early 99. I was still in Connecticut. And they made him the announcer, I think, of Sunday Night Heat. And they had me not only do commentary with him several times on air, but I was going down on like Sundays off or Saturdays off or when we didn't have to travel or whatever. I'd have to drive an hour to the studio and do 2 or 3 hours of practice commentary with Shane that nobody would ever hear because Jim Ross had too much stroke to be made to do it. And I can't remember. Honestly, they wanted a color guy with him rather than, and Michael Cole, Kevin Dunn, had him too much favoritism, so he didn't have to do it. And Kevin Kelly was a play-by-play guy. So I ended up with doing color with Shane for practice. And it was brutal because he'd never announced before and he thought he was a personality or should be. And I love Shane and I've talked nice about Shane, but he was a rotten fucking announcer. And he was always going, and booyah, booyah. I said, what is booyah? That's a shotgun blast. Booyah? Oh, it was brutal. Brutal booyah. A little dab will do me.
Well, if he comes to AEW, they'll certainly boo him. But we shall see. That was AEW Dynamite.
Yes, it certainly was.
From Pittsburgh.
It certainly was the pits.
Jim, AEW just announced their new deal with Warner Brothers Discovery. Why don't we talk about the ratings that were for the night of the announcement?
I forgot about them ratings. What in the world went on in the real world? Not how much money they're getting paid, but how many people are actually watching.
AEW Dynamite, Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024, 8 to 10:31 p.m. On average, watched by 680,000 viewers.
Ouch! They went down on their 5th anniversary? Well, a lot of people have done that, I guess. So I guess I shouldn't.
Come on now. Well, you know what? Honestly, they promoted Grand Slam a lot better than they did this, don't you think?
Well, that's true because it was a Grand Slam, whereas this was only apparently a blowjob.
Well, these blowjob numbers were compiled by WrestleNomics. Quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m. The Pac, Claudio Castagnoli, Marina Shafir, John Moxley promo. Please get a stable name. Will Osprey versus Ricochet starts. 801,000 viewers.
Okay, and one would think that if any match would keep the AEW audience placated, satisfied, and warm and fuzzy, it would be this one. So I wouldn't think they would lose too many viewers, but at the same time, with that overall average and starting at 800,000, by the end of the program, it's not looking too rosy. So go ahead.
Quarter 2, 8:15 to 8:30 p.m. Will Osprey versus Ricochet continued with picture-in-picture ads. The post-match with Takeshita. The Mercedes Moné Camille backstage promo. 743,000 viewers.
Okay, so 58,000 people did not like all of that banger. That's more than I thought would have left in this situation. But it does get repetitive after a while.
And so far, and the trend will continue at least in the next quarter, it's in line with the 90-day trend that WrestleNomics has compiled here. Quarter 3, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m. starts with an ad break. The Guns getting attacked by Adam Page. The Learning Tree with Mark Briscoe. 702,000 viewers.
Oh. So that followed, you had Mercedes, then you've got, well, the thing with the Guns was meaningless because it was a minute or less, and then Jericho appears. You've lost now 99,000 people from the start of the program and another 41,000 from the previous 15 minutes.
And as I said to you before, that's in line with the 90-day trend. The 90-day trend is losing 100,000 viewers within the first 2 quarters.
Jesus Christ. All right.
Quarter 4, 8:45 to 9 p.m. The Darby Allen promo and the start of Juice Robinson versus Hangman Adam Page with picture-in-picture. 704,000 viewers.
Okay, that's just people coming back from the fridge or the bathroom, I guess. At this point, it's almost the same.
From the Learning Tree. Quarter 5, the big 9 o'clock hour, 9 to 9:15 p.m. The continuation of the Hangman versus the Juice. The post-match with Jay Ping Pong White, the Jack Perry Shibata backstage angle, and another ad break. 670,000 viewers.
Oh, good Lord. So that's 34,000 at the top of the hour. They didn't pick up anybody.
Well, again, the Met game was on. Maybe all of a sudden everyone's watching the Mets. Quarter 6, 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. Serena Deeb versus Britt Baker with picture-in-picture. And the post-match with Queen Aminata. 669,000 viewers.
Okay, so they're pretty flat there, but everybody in Pittsburgh was watching. So they've gone 702, 704, 670, 669. Whenever they drop, at least those people are sticking around for 2 quarters.
Well, we go now to quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The Hook backstage promo, the Christian Cage promo, an ad break, the Mariah May Willow Nightingale backstage angle, Private Party versus Iron Savages, the post-match with the Elite Shibata, Christopher Daniels, Jack Perry. 708,000 viewers.
What? So 30 with 30, where did they pick up 39,000 people on that? That's odd.
That's something there. I don't know what, but we go now to quarter 8. I remind you, there's a long overrun, so we got a ways to go.
There's 2 overruns.
Technically 3 quarters here, actually, it goes into 9:45 to 10 p.m. The MVP Prince Nana Shelton Benjamin debut backstage angle, an ad break, and the start of Bryan Danielson versus Kazuchika Okada with picture-in-picture. 642,000 viewers.
What?
Overruns.
No, wait a minute. Hold on here. We went from 660. What was in quarter 7 again?
Quarter 7 was Hook's backstage promo, Christian Cage's backstage promo, or tape promo, an ad break, Mariah May and Willow Nightingale's backstage angle, Private Party versus the Iron Savages, and then the post-match with the Elite.
That quarter hour went from 669 to 708, and as soon as that quarter was over with, Danielson and Okada start in the main event, and they lose 66,000 people. You think there was a power surge on the Nielsen box in quarter 7?
Yeah, it came from Cucamonga. People saw that and tuned out.
Whew.
Well, let's go to the overrun. 10 to 10:15 p.m., Danielson versus Okada. 596,000 viewers.
Oh, good heavens.
10:15 to 10:30 p.m., the continuation of Danielson versus Okada with picture-in-picture. The post-match with Moxley, Claudio Pac, Marina Shafir, Wheeler Yuta, and The Hammer. 574,000 viewers.
Oh, good God.
1 minute overrun. 10:30 to 10:31 p.m., 561,000 viewers.
Jesus Christ, so the longer that thing went, the more they lost.
So what value does the overrun have? And it's happened to Danielson a bunch over the last year.
They went from 642 to 561 from the start to the finish of the thing.
Okada's not over with anyone except the most diehard AEW fans. Danielson's not as valuable as he once was. There was a time a few years ago, 5 years ago, in fact, if AEW had had Danielson versus CM Punk, it would have really meant something. Punk means more today. Danielson doesn't. Yeah. Danielson's value has been devalued in AEW. He's happy, so you can't take that away from him. And he's getting to do what he wants. But the overall value to the average wrestling fan, to the wrestling fans that watch wrestling and choose what to watch or not watch, it isn't there anymore.
So they started with 801,000, and over the course of the thing, the very long thing, they lost 240,000 viewers. That means 240, 480, 720. They lost 30% or high 20s% of the audience. That's
and by the way, for the key demo, just to point this out, they start at 333, but that's skewed a little high from the previous show. 302, 279, 275, 267, 266, 278, 272. So they're consistent. And then here's the Danielson-Okada match. 240, 233, 226. So even those fans were tuning out. If they had really got an hour, they would have really tested some limit. You know, they're next week, I think they're on Tuesday, Title Tuesday. That may end up being the lowest rated AEW Dynamite ever.
Well, yeah, and it's not fair that I'm sure it'll be rotten because all of their shows are rotten, but it's not fair to hold that against them if they're being switched over on a different night.
If that was Title Tuesday, what was this? How many title matches were on this show?
Oh, no, there was a girls' match that wasn't for a belt on this one,
that's
so
true.
they'll close that loophole up next week.
But there's AEW Dynamite off their big renewal. Any final thoughts about the numbers here?
I'm not surprised because Jesus, again, everything that happened in the previous segment and it's going to happen in the following segment. There's nothing special anymore you need to sit back and wait for because it constantly the same shit happens. So you can afford to drift off to sleep after you've seen some of it.
Well, we shall see what happens next week. That was AEW Dynamite, and you know what? We're going to call it. This is the drive-thru. All right.
You know, there was a lot of people in the wrestling business paid a lot of money this week and a lot of big debuts and a lot of, network switching and everything. And I don't remember a week here lately where all the shows have been so fucking boring.
Tell me about it. We got to get questions. Next week, questions. And, of course, we have a pay-per-view coming up on the Experience Bad Blood. And next week, there'll be even worse blood. AEW Wrestle Dream will be on the show after that.
Do you think they'll get Neil Sedaka to come out for this one?
Although Tony would pay for it.
Well, I'm talking about the WWE. They got enough money now. Neil don't come cheap.
Bad blood.
Yeah, bad blood.
Yeah. We shall find out. We shall find out. For everyone who keeps emailing us articles about the Jaguars, we got a few. Unless something new happens, please stop for now. But the drive-thru is closed. Oh, no. Oh, no.
What? What happened?
Oh, no.
What happened?
Someone... Oh, the last one is fucked up. This is my favorite one.
Oh.
All right, we'll be back.
You got a fucked up key?
We're on Twitter, the official Jim Cornette YouTube channel. Go through the archive. Patreon. Patreon.com/Cornette.
I've never heard you so torn up.
$5 a month. Yeah, $5 a month gets you access to the archive. Travis Heckel artwork on YouTube.
Somebody buy Brian a new kalimba.
I can buy my own. I'll find the right one. And you can find the right one at Cornette's Collectibles. There's a t-shirt. It's not a t-shirt. It's a figure with a shirt and a coat. And it's not a t-shirt at jimcornette.com, but it's white. And the drive-thru is brought to you by the laws of Stephen P. New, 877-50-STEVE. Get even with Stephen. And newlawoffice.com. We back on the Experience. For Jim Cornette, I'm the great Brian Last. Tally ho!